Evening, everyone. It is now 7 p.m., Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, and I call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Arlandu.
Here.
Kilburg.
Here.
Gonzalez Thomas.
Present.
Mathis.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Meadows.
Present.
Sliger.
Next, I would like to invite RJ, because he volunteered unknowingly, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, RJ.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tom, are there any items to remove or add to the agenda? Remove from or add to?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next item, tonight we'd like to celebrate a success about Kathleen Terry-Ton and the BHS Art Department. Would you please come to the podium, Mr. Owen?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. My name is Chris Owen, and I have the pleasure of being a music teacher at Batavia High School. A new role for me a few years ago was being asked to help my fellow fine arts teachers as a coordinator and advocate for large events that we do at the high school and help advocate for some of their needs. It's in this capacity that I have the pleasure of speaking to you tonight to congratulate my fine arts colleagues on the Illinois Art Education Association's Department of Distinction Award for Batavia High School for 2023 to 2025. These fine educators work tirelessly on behalf of their students, creating new projects to showcase their art and media, allowing space and time for students to tap into their inner artists to express themselves in safe spaces, and providing feedback in an authentic way that always focuses on the growth of the student from where they are currently, not where an arbitrary bar might be. The journey is where the learning occurs. I could speak briefly about the criteria on this award is chosen, but suffice it to say that each of these educators puts students first before anything else and does whatever is needed to help each student find and express themselves through their artistic medium. We're all fortunate and blessed to have them work with the artists in our high school and their Batavia community. Speaking from personal experience, I'm a better music educator and fine arts educator because of conversations with all of these elite educators. And I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all of their work and accomplishments to earn their prestigious Department of Distinction Award for Batavia High School for the second time. Their names are Jennifer Carpenter, Josh Caspern, Lucy Jensen, Jennifer Melendez, Kathleen Terry-Ton, Andrea Schindelbeck, and Emily Smith. Additionally, a former Batavia High School teacher, Dawn Zelkis, was also instrumental in earning this award for Batavia High School. Please help me acknowledge their many contributions and achievements to our school district, high school, and community. Some of them are We distributed some of the pamphlets of student artwork and the accomplishments to the board and administrators this evening, so feel free to peruse those. And I'll be sending that to you digitally tomorrow too, if you wanted to check that out there. There's a couple examples that I think a couple of my colleagues have here too. Furthermore, one of these fine art educators received additional accolades from the Illinois Art Education Association, Kathleen Terry-Ton. If you know me, this is a sidebar, if you know me a little bit, I might cry a little bit here because I'm very proud of her. Kathleen received the Illinois Secondary Art Educator of the Year. Without a doubt, you've seen Kathleen's student work throughout the community on posters, apparel, signs, and even with the new Batavia community flag. Her graphic students begin with a desire to learn a new artistic skill and grow their passion to do incredible professional work. There's no doubt in my mind that Ms. Terry-Ton's expertise as a graphic designer, physical artist, and educator. Sorry, I get worked up when I talk about people that I care about, so sorry about that. I have a marching band banquet tomorrow. It's going to happen there too. I'll start that sentence again because it's a good one. There's no doubt in my mind that without Ms. Terry-Ton's expertise as a graphic designer, physical artist, and educator blessed in the art of teaching, that these students would not be as talented and successful as they are. She's continually on the pulse of changes in the curriculum with the artistic community to design new courses to meet the needs of the students in the ever-changing world of graphic design. She's a continual and ardent advocate for students, sponsoring numerous clubs at Batavia High School, including Pride and Future Creative Professionals. Speaking from personal experience, and as a fellow arts educator, she makes all of us better by thinking and challenging our ideas and coming up with new creative ways to support artists at the high school. There are few educators who are more tireless advocates for their student and their program. I'm always in awe, and I'm purposely not making eye contact with her right now, because of her students' professional skills and her gift for teaching students of all abilities. Please join me in acknowledging Ms. Thierry Tan as the Illinois Art Educator Second Year. Probably going to yell at me later for crying. But congratulations, Kathleen.
Well, thank you. Anybody have anything they want to say or add? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Job well done, of course, and we all appreciate all your efforts. And I loved having the moment of kind of celebrating the success to remind the great job our teachers do for our kids. So next is public comments. We welcome the meeting. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Education. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening, please see our recording secretary to submit a form for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form. In general, the board will not answer questions or engage in dialogue during public comment. This does not mean we do not value or take your participation, or take your concerns or comments seriously. The board values active community participation in the district's endeavors, encourages people to engage with the district using appropriate channels and systems designed with your input in mind. Board members are not involved in the day-to-day operations of the district and cannot engage the district in business individually. If you have specific questions or would like to engage further with the district, you may submit your questions using the link on the website, and the appropriate staff member will communicate with you. Our BPS 101 Communication Manager, Holly Deachman, will now explain the procedures for public comment and call up the speakers.
Thank you, President Meadows. Speakers will be called up in order of form submission, and today we have 10 people that are signed up to speak, and each of you will get 3 minutes. We also ask that if somebody before you has already said exactly or basically what you're going to say, I agree with what they have to say, and then we can continue on with our meeting. The first form we received is the first person will be invited to speak. When your name is called, please come to the podium so that you can be heard. All individuals speaking will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'm going to be putting a 3-minute timer up on the screen. I will start this timer when you are set at the podium. We ask that you please abide by that because it makes a really annoying noise once the 3 minutes goes off and it just kind of echoes in here. At any time during this meeting, written comments may be submitted to our recording secretary, Cindy Rodriguez, who is at my right. Speakers should conduct themselves with civility and respect towards everyone in this room. Our first, and I apologize in advance if I don't pronounce your name correctly, Helen Ratzlow.
I want to talk about the Farnsworth Builder TIF. Tax financing, or TIFs, traditionally have a 23-year lifespan. 23 years ago, my son was a 9-year-old fourth grader at Louise White. Now he has a career and a student debt, a wife, a house, a mortgage, and a stepson. In 23 years, he went from a fourth grader to a stepdad of a fourth grader. The Farnsworth Builder TIF will affect the students you have now, the preschoolers waiting in the wings, students who will move here from other places, and students who haven't even been born yet. Property taxes are the engine of local government. They must increase to meet inflation and increasing need. The TIF district will allow the casino to freeze their property tax at the current level while they build a facility worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The property taxes above the baseline will stay in their hands for 23 years. Your needs will not stay level. You will have more students, there will be new technologies, equipment, books. There will be salaries and benefits to attract and retain quality staff. There will be maintenance and probably new construction. With property tax funds diverted to a TIF, either you have to do without or find revenue elsewhere. East Aurora School District waited for 23 years to reap the benefits of the casino, and then the casino applied for and got an extension. East Aurora ended up waiting more than 30 years for full funding to reach them, at which point the casino announced their plan to move and build and get a new TIF. Penn Entertainment is a billion-dollar company that could afford to do this project without a TIF. The CEO makes $65 million a year, which is 130 times the $500,000 that you are being offered to split 7 ways. They also bought a video gaming system for over $300 million and then sold it back for $1. You need to organize with the other taxing bodies to vote no on the Farnsworth Builder TIF. With a no vote, you can negotiate a better deal for your students. A TIF doesn't have to last 23 years. It could be 20 or 15 or 12, and the full property tax value of the development will become available sooner. Likewise, you could negotiate to get some of that increased value in 2 or 3 years after the construction is finished. You could get a 20/80 deal, or 30/70, or 50/50. But the world of possibilities will only open up if your representatives vote no at the joint review meeting. If it should happen that you cannot get 3 other taxing bodies to commit to vote no as well, then you still have time to sign the intergovernmental agreement before November 8th. The yellow handout has projections of taxes diverted based on the City of Aurora estimates.
Thank you. Next is Pat Weiler.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Pat Weiler. TIF districts are tax increment financing districts. TIFs are created by slicing an area out of your taxable map and funneling any incremental public dollars away from public services and into the hands of the mega wealthy. On paper, TIFs were invented to help develop blighted land that would be hard to develop otherwise. Unfortunately, TIFs have instead become an easy way for big developers and large companies to publicly finance large projects and pad their bottom line to shift the risk to the public and shift the profits to private individuals. A feature that makes the new proposed casino TIF especially egregious, I really do like that word, is that it is a micro TIF, meaning it only encompasses the property directly owned by the single entity, Penn Entertainment. There's no way to use these dollars outside of the TIF district to develop other land nearby because the TIF is so small. At least with other larger TIFs, you could potentially develop other land and develop and revitalize a given area. This micro TIF is simply a cash grab facilitated by the City of Aurora. TIFs are an abuse of property tax law. By carving out more TIFs, we limit the number of properties taxed to fund our public bodies. If we maintain or increase spending while we remove taxable parcels, property taxes must increase for everyone within the districts to make up the shortfall. I'm going to present 4 scenarios. They're short. I gotta see the time here. Okay, I better get them in. Scenario 1, vote yes. Approving the intergovernmental agreement as is would give you only 10% of the tax revenue for 23 years plus, and potentially higher revenues in 23 to 35 years if the casino doesn't fail. Scenario 2, vote no. Do not sign the intergovernmental agreement as is. Demand more concessions, either a larger percentage up to 100% or a shorter TIF, so that you can reap 100% sooner. So potentially higher revenues in 23 years if casino doesn't fail. 3, no TIF, vote no, no TIF at all, and casino still builds. They have the cash and they can afford this development without public funds. Taxing bodies get 100% of increased revenues if the casino doesn't fail. The last scenario, no TIF at all and casino doesn't build. Properties are sold to other entities, and property taxes develop naturally.
I meant it. Next speaker, David Cannon.
I have to share. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is David Cannon. I am from Aurora. I'm here with a spooky Halloween tale, East Aurora School District and TIF number 1, a cautionary tale. In 1986, the city of Aurora created TIF number 1, a legal mechanism which diverts property tax dollars from their rightful destination of schools and local governing bodies to an unaccountable, undemocratic bucket of money to subsidize private development, as is the case with the new casino TIF district. In 1993, Hollywood Casino, run by Penn Entertainment, opened in Aurora and began paying incremental property taxes, not to taxing bodies, but into TIF number 1. The school district encompassing the original casino property was East Aurora School District. Due to TIF number 1, East Aurora Schools forewent any incremental property tax revenues from the new casino for 23 years. In 2009, after 23 years, before the initial TIF expired, it was extended another 12 years, currently allowable by state law. Over those combined 35 years, TIF number 1 diverted over $50 million away from public tax bodies into an unaccountable, undemocratic pot of money. East Aurora Schools missed out on approximately $31 million, just the school. With the new casino TIF district, this could be you. In 2022, after 35 years of waiting, East Aurora Schools saw their first disbursement of casino property taxes, totaling $323,000 per year. And now, as the school district is finally posed to benefit from the casino, Penn Entertainment and the city are moving it to a different jurisdiction to give Penn a better return on their investment. Any promise of future tax revenues for public schools was a bluff. The company has demonstrated that they will accept your tax concessions up front, but have no problem leaving you behind in pursuit of profits. They've demonstrated that they are not a faithful partner and cannot be trusted in the long term. Based on conservative City of Aurora figures, if the new casino TIF district is approved, Batavia schools will miss out on approximately $74 million in tax revenues. $74 million. That's City of Aurora figures. The City of Aurora has proposed an intergovernmental agreement, which is before you today, where the taxing bodies will get 10% of any incremental taxes and 90% will go to Penn Gaming. That is a bad deal. You must not sign that. By taking a hard line, you strengthen your hand. The buck stops with the school board. You are the decision makers for the students, staff, and parents of Batavia School District 101, and you are the ones who will be held personally responsible for those decisions. Please do not send staff to make that decision on your behalf. The Batavia School District should please vote no on the intergovernmental agreement, agenda item 7.2. Please also pass a resolution that would send a sitting board member to the Joint Review Board meeting on November 8th. Vote no at that Joint Review Board meeting and have District 101 staff run the numbers yourself to make sure that you understand it entirely. Thank you so much.
Next is Yvonne Dinwiddie.
I agree with everything the predecessor said, but Hollywood Casino, where it currently stands, is making money. Aurora TIF was dissolved on 10/26/2021. The taxes that were assessed on the casino in 2021 were $308,334.12. The taxing bodies in that TIF district would be seeing the benefit from their 30-year wait. Now the casino will move and take with it the tax dollars that should rightly go to the taxing bodies who put up with the loss of revenue and the opportunity costs of foregoing improvements or upkeep the tax dollars would have provided. This is government-sponsored theft, and our tax dollars promote business expansion. The City of Aurora purchased the property to be used for the new casino development back in 2017. The property was not truly blighted because if the casino was to be built there, which they planned, there was potential for profit. Penn Entertainment has made plenty of money from the casino and in fact could afford to build that property without a TIF several times over. Why should taxpayers not only be giving the land to the casino, but paying to develop the property and the infrastructure surrounding the property when Penn's second quarter 2023 operating income was $404.6 million? Gaming revenues alone were $1,292.8 million, not counting food, beverage, and hotel and other operating income. Carving out a portion of TIF 7 and 8 has the same effect as extending the TIF beyond the 23 years and is taking higher revenue-producing property from those two TIFs which are set to expire in 2034. We teach our children not to talk to strangers, to go and tell someone who can be trusted to act. When I read the offer of the paltry 10% of the money to go to a special allocation fund to be distributed to taxing bodies along with the NDA, the district agrees not to make statements or take actions disparaging the new TIF district, the existing TIF district, or the project, the red stranger danger flags go up. If this is such a good deal, why would the school district or any other taxing body have to agree to this statement? Obviously, Batavia School District has some experience with TIF districts, given the Aurora Outlet Mall, which was only one successful TIF, and one Washington TIF, which was not. So their experience could be a blessing to the TIF, or if it was not performing, a curse. This is akin to the city of Aurora paying protection money to the school district, or if you prefer, a bribe for the school district and other taxing bodies not to oppose the school districts. Could I just finish this one little sentence? The TIFs are self-perpetuating and are nothing more than corporate welfare at the taxpayer's expense, a huge ripoff. The school district stands to lose over $74 million over the life of TIF, the opportunity costs of foregoing improvements and repairs to the school for 23 years. If the TIF doesn't produce the aforementioned increment to pay the proposed money, what are your guarantees for receipt?
Hand it to Carl, he can read the rest. Next up is Carl Dinwiddie.
Carl Dinwiddie, 1156 Pine Street, Batavia, Illinois. First of all, this will be my first official time to welcome Superintendent Kim to our neighborhood and his family to our neighborhood. It's great to see him. And I watched at least 3 board members over the board meetings over the summer. And it looks like the board and Mr. Kim and all the staff did a really good job, really attentive. And one of the things I heard from editors once upon a time is the public comments time is called the deer in the headlights in front of most boards. They just go to sleep. But in this case, I watched your meetings all summer long, and I thought the comments were good and the attentiveness was good. I'm not going to repeat what anybody said. I'm mainly just going to focus on 7.2 about the agreement, intergovernment agreement. Most of it is acceptable legalese. I'll go through some problematic areas I see. Okay. First of all, of course, the Aurora can surplus whatever it wants, so that's not an issue. It goes out to all the taxing bodies. When I get to Section 4, support by the district to vote in a certain way at the Joint Review Board, I have to say if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. So this looks like compensation
to a public official for voting a certain way in a public meeting. And that gives me problems. In fact, so much problems is that I'll go to one board member when I'd got up to talk, he says, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I would say that constitutes a bribe, and I feel obligated to contact the FBI office in Lisle and have them review Aurora's office, and if you accept it, to review or accept it, that this is a material compensation for a vote. And I don't think that's correct with integrity. The other, I'm running out of time. I don't want to hear that bell again. Most of the rest of this is okay. I wouldn't waive the trial by jury, and you can be sued. So I'd be very careful what I sign here, giving away your rights. Thank you.
Kate Cuneo?
Good evening. My name is Kate Cuneo. I'm a Batavia resident and mother of 3 children attending our excellent public schools. I want to begin by thanking teachers, staff, and the Batavia School Board that have gone above and beyond to meet my children's needs, especially since 2 of them have IEPs. My primary purpose for speaking tonight is to ask you to vote no on the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Aurora and ask the school board to send someone to the TIF Joint Review Board meeting that will be held on November 9th and cast a no vote at that meeting. The fact that Penn Entertainment is pursuing a TIF district to use taxpayer money to pay back a $58 million subsidy from the City of Aurora is of great concern. That $58 million bond will be repaid by tax dollars that are diverted from Batavia schools. Penn Entertainment is a multi-billion-dollar company, and their CEO makes $65 million. They don't need a TIF, they don't need a subsidy, and Batavia schools shouldn't pay for it. The TIF is projected to generate more than $120 million in revenue. Under the current agreement, that money will be diverted from our schools and into Penn Entertainment's pockets. Instead, we should push for a 50-50 TIF and use that money for the school repairs we needed to fund through the failed referendum. We need to look out for Batavia residents, taxpayers, and our budget, not Penn Entertainment's bottom line. The existing Aurora Casino starved East Aurora schools for over 30 years, and they just now started paying their taxes to East Aurora schools. We should negotiate a deal that gives Batavia a bigger piece of the pie, not live on a promise of future revenues. Our needs to maintain our schools are now, not 20 years from now or 30 years from now. Thank you. That's all I have. Have a good one.
Next, we have Julie Strasser.
Great. All right. Hello. We are the reading specialists representing each of the elementary schools, and one of us has her doctorate in reading. Collectively, we have 83 years of experience in this district role, which has changed dramatically during the last 9 years. Our goal here today is to inform you about our vital responsibilities as reading specialists and to help you understand why our role is so valuable. Historically, we were regarded as leaders in the instruction of reading and writing, working alongside administrators and classroom teachers. Such partnerships led to effective curriculum, which translated to successful, engaged learners. Batavia was a place for other educators to observe and return to their own districts with ideas and materials. We are an essential partner to parents and their children, as well as to our colleagues. Our skill set comprises those of a diagnostician, a researcher, a designer, and a data analyst. At the September board meeting, Superintendent Kim presented an outline of his strategic plan, which includes identifying district resources. Well, that's us. We are very willing and eager to return to a role which would permit us to use our knowledge and talents to guide instruction in reading and writing for all elementary students, not just those who participate in a Tier 3 intervention. As diagnosticians, we know how to go beyond universal district assessments and dig deeper into a student's literacy profile. This is crucial, especially when they aren't responding to classroom instruction at a comparable pace to their peers. From there, we could design instruction that better supports them. If we were allowed to do this, it would help those children, and in part may address the over-identification of students of color, for which this district has been cited frequently during the past 9 years. As researchers, we are the specialists in our domain. Teachers have many subjects to teach, but we have one, making us the experts. We stay up to date on current reading practices and research and can synthesize that for teachers to benefit Tier 1 and 2 instruction. As designers, we know how to create instructional practices for students based on our work as diagnosticians and researchers. We can take a boxed program and customize it by adding, modifying, or taking away elements in order to best fit the needs of the students in front of us. Additionally, in years prior, we have designed and offered professional development to our colleagues in both reading and writing instruction. As data analysts, we use information daily to make instructional decisions about our students. This responsive teaching is critical to supporting at-risk readers. Relatedly, we know how to gather district data and look at it from both a current and historical lens in terms of instructional practices and materials. In conclusion, we believe in the importance of this role, which has existed in the district for the last 40 years at least. Our colleagues and school families have relied on us. We know how valuable it is to have a reading specialist in every building. We are your in-house literacy experts. 8 minutes, 8 seconds.
Next is Julian Heckbert.
All right. Good evening, board members, everybody. I am here to talk about the casino TIF. I agree with what most of my fellow residents here have said. So out of respect for your time, I am going to skip to the very end of my little speech here. So Penn Entertainment, they don't need this money. You know, they spent more on stock buybacks last year than we stand to gain from voting no on this TIF. They spent $91 million on stock buybacks just in 1 year, and we stand to gain about $74 million over the full 23 years. They don't need this money. We do. So I would urge you to appoint one of you to go to one of the elected officials on this board, to go to the joint review board meetings, to take a look at the financials yourself, and to vote no on the current proposal on November 8th so that we can negotiate for a better deal. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Next is Mary Lee Liu.
Good evening. As Julian said, I won't, I agree with the prior people that have spoken in regard to the TIF, so I will just speak to slightly different places in the sense that this $74 million in funds that will be diverted from your district, shortly you're going to have a presentation for your capital expenditures requesting $52 million this year. So if you have 1 year that you need $52 million to do projects, those are going to have long-lasting, not repercussions, but they're going to be long-lasting for the students in 23 years. The field house, the other projects you intend to do will outlive this TIF. I'm the parent of 2 teenagers. It's potential that I will actually have grandchildren that are not even conceived of yet, be born, graduate college before the benefits could be done of this. So your body is making decisions today that are affected a full generation that we don't even know about yet. So as Julian stated, I encourage you to make a resolution tonight to send one of you as an elected body members instead of some staff. And also to resolve that you stand in opposition for granting a for-profit of dollars because, as he stated, they don't need it. Thank you so much for your time.
John Leish.
Good evening, Board. First of all, I want to thank you. I served on the East Aurora School Board for 4 years, and during the May discussion where the City of Aurora came and presented to you, some of you asked the question, what does this do to East Aurora? Some of the other speakers have done a good job articulating how this wasn't just it was a short 23, 25-year TIF and then got extended. And that's how Illinois TIF law is written. And if you think about the life cycle of a building or a project is 25 years, a lot of people are even in their building less than that. So you're effectively negotiating a deal for the lifespan of this building. I'm also a sitting Aurora alderman who you also had asked, what about the other aldermen? Because I know Alderman Werman was here. What do they think? This is an issue I ran on. I can assure you that Ward 1 residents, some who are here tonight, are against this because it will dramatically change their lives and decrease their property values. But, you know, your role as a school board is to set policy. On these TIFs, District 204 has adopted an official policy opposing TIF districts. And they are so far the only successful that I can see taxing body that's negotiated effectively against what I would call aggressive negotiating strategies by the City of Aurora, making one of their TIFs down to a 15-year TIF. There's a number of levers that you can pull to change it, either to make it a 50-50 TIF, which is a point nobody's made yet. We do have a sheet and a handout, and I'll email it to you if you haven't got it yet, using the City of Aurora's own numbers that were presented in May, that this will generate $5.25 million a year. That's money that doesn't go into the taxing bodies, but instead goes into the TIF district. And over the course of time, that's $120 million. So over the course of 23 years. So we are financially pot committed to $58 million, not a vote I cast, and prior to my time on the board. But if we only need 58, why are we doing a math problem with 120 million? So something to think about. So I would echo some of the other points that have been made by my peers, and also encourage you to talk to District 204 about this before committing to tonight's vote on the intergovernmental agreement. I personally just left the Aurora City Council meeting and voted no on it. And I would encourage you to talk to the other taxing bodies. And I would encourage people to attend the JRB, even if you're not there as a voting member, just to educate yourself. And I will be sending out an invitation for November 4th, 10 a.m. We will be holding a TIF 101 meeting that's going to be slightly different and very factual in the Marywood Community Center. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody that came and spoke today. I'd like to invite our BPS partners up. Todd Swanson, welcome back. We missed you last month, but he did a good job filling in for you.
Good evening, everyone. I find it kind of ironic. I'm standing by this sign that says always learning and always growing. So before I even started my comments, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that came to educate me and the people sitting in this room and everybody listening and watching online about TIF districts. I learned more about TIF districts in 25 minutes than I think I have ever known about them. So thank you for coming to speak and to help us all learn and grow. So that was really appreciated. Tonight I'd like to begin by continuing to focus on our district accomplishments. Last month, I shared some news that our art department at BHS was one of 3 schools in the state to receive the School Distinction designation by the Illinois Art Educator Association. And as we just celebrated at the beginning of our meeting tonight, we have yet another Illinois Art Educator of the Year as one of our district colleagues in Kathleen Terry Ton. In a span of just 5 years, we as a district have our second statewide Art Educator of the Year for the entire state of Illinois on our staff. In 2018, Don Zalkis also received this prestigious recognition and recognition of our BPS staff for an Art Educator of the Year. Other accomplishments, our Batavia Marching Band competed in the state marching band competition last weekend at ISU and placed second overall in Class 2A, was awarded Best Visual, and this marks the highest placement in this class in our school's history. It also marked the second consecutive year for the Batavia Marching Band to be selected for the state finals. In the finals this year, Batavia Marching Band placed 11th, which is the highest placement in the school's history. This caps off a season with many awards and recognitions in other competitions, with the band placing first or second repeatedly. Our football team is yet again conference champions and is poised to make a deep playoff run. The fall sports teams of soccer, volleyball, cross country, tennis, golf, and cheer are all winding down their seasons. And to all of our students and all of our staff in every one of these areas that I mentioned who contribute to every win and grow from every defeat, thank you for making our fall sports season memorable. Leaving behind sports and fine arts for a second, I'd like to spend a moment on academic recognitions. Coming up in the consent agenda, you'll see the Illinois School Report Card. And in all of its data, you will also see that each one of our BPS schools received a commendable or exemplary designation on the 2023 School Report Card. This accomplishment comes on the shoulders of all of our district employees, but ultimately, it's at the hands of our students who apply what they've learned in their classrooms. Receiving commendable status are Louise White, Grace McWayne, J.B. Nelson, Rotolo Middle School, and Batavia High School. This level is reached when there are no underperforming student subgroups, but they're not quite in the top 10% of the schools in the state. However, we did have 3 of our elementary schools break into the top 10% of schools in the state this year and received exemplary status. Congratulations to Alice Gustafson, H.C. Storm, and Hoover Wood for receiving this recognition. An interesting piece of information I learned as I dug a little bit deeper into that data was that our top 3 performing schools in the district also had the 3 lowest average class sizes in the district. Ranging from 19 to 21 students per class, these 3 schools had the highest percentage of students who met expectations for growth and readiness on the IAR state test. As a board, I think that is extremely valuable information for you to have and to ponder as we move forward in planning for the future. The BEA is also working very closely with Tom to get our equity committee up and running this year, as they have their first meeting scheduled on November 9th. Tom and Amber Jersa are the co-chairs this year, and we are looking forward to using Tom's message from opening day of inclusivity to be the lens the committee operates under this year. We're also excited to have Danielle be the board rep on the committee this year. I'm really looking forward to some amazing things to come from our reinvigorated and refocused equity committee. With all this great news, does this mean that it's always sunshine and roses with everything in our district? Of course not. We are continuing to work with district admin on curriculum issues at the elementary level and staffing across the district as we continue to seek out the whys of decisions to help with understanding and transparency. That's one thing I'm most proud of my members for doing, continuing to seek out the why for a decision that has been made. That doesn't mean we have to agree with the decision, but at least we will know what led to the decision. The other piece that would be to help tremendously, or this is the other piece that would help tremendously in clarity and buy-in, is to be a part of the discussion even from the beginning. As you heard earlier from our reading specialist, we are a district filled with experts in our fields. We are just shy of 3/4 of our educators holding a master's degree or higher. Problem solving together as admin and educators, experts at the front end, makes transparency and buy-in even higher on the back end. Working together from the beginning builds a lot more trust and provides better communication and transparency than coming in after a decision is made and dealing with the fallout to clarify and figure out a path forward. As always, I would personally welcome any questions that you as board members might have if you heard something tonight that has stuck with you, which I hope that it has. I look forward to any conversations that we may have together. As always, as well, I thank you all for your service as a board, for your work on district committees, and to those of you that have been able to connect with staff in your school liaisons. Educators really do appreciate seeing you and having a chance to talk with you when you come out into our buildings. With that, I'm going to say enjoy your last few days of October and have a happy and safe Halloween. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Next, I would like to invite up Laura for Best Spot, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Versillo from Vespa, and I am the board's treasurer. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but every board meeting, we've been coming here and talking about highlighting a BESPA employee. I think it's important. We have wonderful teachers, but we also have wonderful support staff, and it would be nice for you to know just a little bit about each member. And if you look at the slide, BESPA, the first one here, we feel that BESPA, we're the branches of the educational tree. So just remember this, because later it's all going to make sense. Not today, but it will. So just so you know, what we did is we sent our BESPA members just kind of a questionnaire to get this started. So when I'm reading these stories, this is where they're coming from. We just asked, simple, light questions. How long have you worked at BPS? Did you work at any different schools? Did you have different titles? Are you a Batavia resident? Tell us about your family, your hobbies. Why do you work here? And what do you like about working at BPS? What's your best memory working day? And what is something about your job or about you that is unknown? If you could change one thing about your job, what would it be? And then I just said, be happy to fill in whatever else you want to include. So today I have the honor of introducing Nikki Schindelbach. And Nikki is a dedicated lunch recess supervisor / campus monitor at Louise White School. Nikki's journey with the school spans 8 years, and her story is one of dedication and commitment to the well-being of our students. Nikki embarked on this path when her youngest daughter started first grade. After years of being a stay-at-home mom, she was seeking an opportunity that would enable her to return to work while accommodating her children's school and activity schedules. She knew she wasn't going to go back to being a high school math teacher after starting her family. A friend pointed her towards this role, affirming that Nikki's natural affinity for working with kids and her desire to be present for her 2 daughters at school made a perfect fit. Nikki's personal life is filled with joy and responsibility. She's been happily married for 21 years, raising 3 wonderful children in the Savannah Division in Aurora. Jason, her 18-year-old son, is currently attending Waubonsie Community College, while her daughters Madison, 16 years old, Batavia High School junior, and Mason, 13 years old, at Rotolo 8th grade, keep her busy with activities, especially Scouts and Spirit Week, Crazy Hair Day, and Halloween. In her free time, Nikki enjoys crafting, reading, gardening, and exploring new places. The reason Nikki continues to work at Louise White School is she cherishes the interactions with the children, many of who she's come to know and who recognize her. The relationships with her colleagues and the flexibility that fits perfectly with her schedule are added bonuses, not to mention the ability to see her girls when they attended at Louise White. The memories she's created by being a part of their elementary school years are truly special. In Nikki's role as a lunch recess supervisor, campus monitor, every day is an adventure. It's a dynamic role that's never the same, presenting new challenges and surprises. Some days go by smoothly, while other days are filled with incidents like spills, resolving disputes among friends, addressing injuries, and ensuring students leave with their belongings left behind in an orderly manner. However, Nikki does emphasize that there is some room for improvement. As a lunch recess supervisor, campus monitor, they often face situations where some training and guidelines could prove incredibly beneficial. They haven't received any training for emergency situations like fire alarms or tornado drills, leaving them to rely on their common sense. Furthermore, they would greatly benefit from first aid, choking, and seizure training, especially since they interact with the children daily. Nikki's experience as a high school teacher and mother have informed her approach, but dealing with elementary students that are not her own requires a unique set of skills. In conclusion, Nikki Schindelbach is not just a lunch recess supervisor campus monitor. She's a dedicated mother, an enthusiastic scout leader, and a valued member of our school community. Her commitment to her role and her love for the children are evident in her everyday efforts. As she continues to contribute to the students' lunch and recess time, she also highlights the need for improvements that would not only benefit her, but also make this role more attractive for other parents who may consider joining our team. Thank you for your dedication, Nikki. Thank you.
Thank you. And next are our student ambassadors. You guys are hiding in the back.
Hi guys, I'm Jari and this is Zara, and these are some updates from Batavia High School. Okay, so this month, the girls wrestling team are starting off strong with a lot of committed members, athletes. We also have Eco Club creating a bat race festival for this Halloween. I know some members who are really excited for that next weekend. And for some success, the girls tennis qualified for states, and they're ending the season strong. And speaking of like additional clubs this year, we have Mata UN, which me and Zara actually went today, and the meeting ended as a success, and with future plans and like committed members as well. And talking about things that's starting up this year is mentoring program, which allows high school students to team up with elementary schools to help build connections between the high school students and the elementary students. And I'm one of the mentors that's in that program, and I cannot stress enough how much like this really like builds connection between the high school students and the elementary school students. It helps build like fun and authentic relationships. I'm like really excited for it. It's something I look up to every year.
All right, and for some other successes, we have choir put on a great performance for their October concert. And to reiterate, football had a great season, and the band, cheer, and dance all put on a great show. And they have their first run of playoffs this Friday, which is really exciting. And volleyball also is fired up with their season, and they recently won their first regional playoffs. So that was super exciting. And they're actually playing against Bennett right now, I believe. And like mentioned before, the art programs at the high school have been getting some great recognition, along with the teachers who have been doing some amazing work. I can say because I just finished my 3D art class and it was amazing. And shout out to Miss Thierry, who won the secondary art educator of the year. That's amazing, amazing work done by the teachers. And also wanted to highlight a new program set up by the BHS counselors. It's called the Scholarship Series, and I'm really appreciative of this. I went to the other event, and they kind of educate students and parents on like different financial aid and scholarships that students can get access to. So it's a really great thing that they have on, and they have more programs coming up. And as mentioned before, we went to the Model UN meeting today, actually, and they're tackling different world issues and kind of giving students the leadership skills they need to go forward. So overall, a lot of great things happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Board Liaison Committee updates. Are there any committee updates?
I have an update.
Okay.
Let me just get my notes pulled up here. Does anyone else have one that can?
I can just go real
I
quick.
do. Go ahead. Don't everybody jump at once.
Mine's real quick. We just, Beefy meets actually Thursday, but today, this afternoon, we had a little branch off of Hall of Honor, which has been on hiatus for the last year or so, and Beefy has taken over Hall of Honor, which they originally started it, but, so we've gotten our committee together and we're starting to talk about it, so it will be back for next year, so we're working on that. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to go? I have two that are kind of.
I'll go. I got it pulled up here. So the Insurance and Benefits Committee met on October 12th. I was able to attend virtually. We had a good discussion. Josh does a nice job summarizing our discussion. So what we discussed was the open enrollment presentations that were sent out to staff, and kind of a preview of what we will be sending out. We reviewed the CHC participation data, which is up from last year. We looked at an overview of what's in driving insurance costs in the district, and we looked at a lot of different metrics. We have a great tool where we can really do super fine, detailed analysis of what's driving costs. So what we're sort of working on for the next one is working on creating a quarterly standard of data review so we can kind of simplify things. We can see how we're doing. That's what we talked about.
Do you have another one, or that's it?
That's it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. First, the stipend committee. So just to reiterate, remind everyone, the stipend committee is a group that helps maintain guidelines and make decisions on student clubs and activities. There's a set-aside amount of monetary funds for these groups, and there's members that decide which groups are gonna receive funds for this. So as you could, if you just hear that like that, it sounds like, oh, that could be pretty messed up. So if I could explain it best, over the past year, it's as if we had leaves everywhere, you know, fall theme. We had leaves everywhere, and they raked it all up. This committee did a really good job over the past year. They put a lot of work into it. So first, I want to recognize all the members because they've really worked hard. They were working over the summer off their, you know, regular school hours as well. So Steve, if you can help me really quick, because I'm just realizing now that I haven't said a lot of these people's last names. So how do you pronounce Shelby's last name?
Gages.
So Shelby Gages is one of the co-chairs with Steve, and then Keith
Osveth.
And Adam Lester are two members that represent Rotolo. Then there's Chris Milka and Diane Kispert, who represent elementary. And there's Justin Allison and Brian Gamblin that represent Batavia High School. Correct? Okay. I'll say as a side note, because my students go to HC Storm, Mr. Milka's there, Chris Milka. He takes extraordinary notes. I mean, they're amazing. If you guys ever want to see them, I'll be happy to show them to you. They're color-coded, everything.
It's true.
So the stipend process, and I've heard this from other from students and parents, the stipend process was kind of a little unorganized over the past couple of years. There was paper applications, there was online applications, there were applications that were getting out of date. People weren't sure what the criteria was for getting chosen for the stipend. The committee just sent out, right before the meeting started, Steve sent out a message to all the BPS colleagues explaining the timeline, a very nice, well-written timeline for when processes are due, when the decisions were going to be made. And they also came up with values to guide their decisions in making. So they have a clearly defined system. They're worried about equity and access for all students at all levels. That's why we have two members from each different grade level there at the meetings. The stipends are going to be centered on activities outside of professional duties, and the stipends are going to be fair, equitable to all staff and buildings, besides the students at all levels. So the email just came out. All the BPS 101 colleagues will be seeing it whenever they're checking their email. And it was just great. So I just want to recognize that that's what happened. So they made a lot of progress. We're going to start rolling with new decisions in the next couple of months here with the new timeline that they proposed. Anything you want to add?
No, you said it very well.
Okay.
A lot of good work.
All right. And then my other update is with Fox Valley Career Center. In May of 2023, the FVCC was a recipient of a fire apparatus driving simulator, actually from the City of Batavia Fire Department. So something for us to be proud of, because if you don't know, Fox Valley is associated with a lot of other schools in the area, not just Batavia. So the fire science students and staff actually traveled to Batavia to pick up this machine and bring it back to the school. Do you happen to have a picture, the picture to put up there? No? Cindy, did you have that? I'm sorry, I thought that I had sent that over to you. Let me send that really quick, because that,
Yeah, send it to me, RJ.
okay.
Twitter account. I was over there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Holly, I'll send it over to you, and then I'll continue to talk about it. I just wanted everyone to see the machine. So the machine is on the first email of that chain, or the first email of that chain. And I'll send you another picture as well that I want you to share.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially, this is a machine that is gonna go a long way to helping the fire science students. It helps meet a lot of the requirements for Illinois standards. As you can see, it's almost like, you might have seen any type of driving simulator, like an airplane simulator. So this is what it's like for them to be driving a fire truck. The students actually had to take this apart and put it back together. So not only was it a challenge to get, and they were happy to get it, but the principal over there wanted me to recognize Evan C. He's one of the students who put a lot of time and effort into actually getting this up for the fire science program. So thank you to Evan C. And let's see, I just want to make sure I got this. And then if you got the other, did you see the other one that I sent? Just want to note that our very own superintendent was able to go there and drive an old airport fire truck. I don't know if you were sharing that, but I wanted to share the photos as well.
Everyone just eats into my comments, so that's all right. You're joining Tom.
Oh, do you have the picture of it yourself?
No,
There you
but
go.
I was going to talk about my visit. That's all right.
Right there.
You're taking care of it. Tom took half my statements. And you're taking it's all good. Oh, he shared that with you. Oh, God.
So it's nice to see that you're getting your hands dirty, know what the students are going through. So that's it. Any
I'm just
questions
gonna
on either
keep
of
that
those?
up for the rest of the meeting. You'd rather see that than the agenda, right?
Holly.
Just kidding.
All right, thanks. Raquel,
Yep.
go ahead and for the
All right, so.
joint committee meeting
yeah,
effectively.
So capital gains, or I'm sorry, capital project and RAC combined, and we actually had two meetings prior to this one. So our first one was on 9/28. Basically, they just were talking about the 2024 projects for the summer. And then, not to steal anyone's thunder, sorry, Mark, but they're just basically gonna go with for the next few years, they wanna do warm, safe, and dry. That's gonna be their main focus for the next 5 years on their projects. Also, they talked a little bit about the food service and the HB 2471 bill about healthy meals for all. And they're gonna send out a survey to parents and kids, just talking about what type of lunch they have. There's like a couple options, so we meet that criteria for that Senate bill. And then, in the last meeting, they talked more about the 5-year plan, and we have some contracts that are gonna be renewed, like buses, our energy costs, they're trying to work with those, and then also accommodating for full-day kindergarten. And then they went more in-depthly into like the actual years on what they want to do for the schools and the costs and the projects, and they kind of like broke it out. So, that was basically it.
Okay. Anyone else, Rob?
I guess I'll just mention, we did have a curriculum committee meeting. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. I was out of town during that meeting, but I did receive the notes and the feedback, and it looks like they started reviewing some of the subject area leadership team charters for science, ELA, social studies, and essential programming, grades 3 through 12. So that started. Liaisons was also picked for those subject area leadership teams to help with communication. So those were the notes coming back from that meeting.
Great, thank you. In case everybody hadn't noticed, and if I'm stealing your thunder, I apologize in advance. That the committee's kind of where there was a lot of reorganization and a lot of relook, and that came out of kind of constructive dialogue, working with the teachers and staff. So I appreciate all the hard work from all the teachers and staff and everybody else to really try to pull this together as the new year is starting and get here to be able to kind of talk about that. And I'm excited for the opportunities that are gonna come from those revisions and changes, so thank you for that. All right, consent agenda. So according to our board policy, we designate a portion of the agenda as a consent agenda for those items that usually do not require extensive discussion before board action. These items generally are routine, recurring, and can be grouped together for efficiency. Steve, as usual, would you like to share anything before we take action?
No, I have nothing to share.
No?
Beyond this consent agenda.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep. Go for it.
5.1, approval of the September 19th, 2023 meeting minutes. 5.2 is our monthly personnel report. 5.3 is our monthly payroll and bills. 5.4 is the destruction of our closed session recordings from April 19th, 2022. 5.5, we have several donations, a lot of them very considerable. We're definitely grateful to DM Hendrickson of Collier City, Florida, Batavia Arts Council, and then considerable donations from Beefy are much appreciated. 5.6 is the authorize the application for our school maintenance project grant. 5.7 is our school report card. 5.8 is the BHS overnight field trip approval. 5.9 is the authorization to begin development of our fiscal year 25 budget. And then finally, 5.10 is the approval of this consent agenda.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yes. I have a question.
Okay.
So on the personnel report, I'm just curious how the incentive program is going. Because I see, the only thing that I see on there, right, is that there's 3 paras that resigned and then 3 paras that were hired within that time frame. So just how is it going?
Ironically, we had a meeting with our BESPA leadership tonight, and they asked the same question, so they prepped me in advance. Unfortunately, I guess I'm sharing that we have not seen great success with that. Having said that, I just got an email tonight, or this evening, from a staff member with a potential lead, so I'm hopeful that that works out. But to date, I have to say that we have not seen any success with the incentive program. But we still got like a month left.
So with the 8 FMLA, the staff, is that gonna impact us too?
I'm sorry?
With this, the FMLA, the 8 staff that are gonna be on FMLA, like, do we have to replace all of them? Or, I mean, you know, or are they just I know like there was some intermittent FMLAs, so.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what the FMLA leave is like and what it constitutes. With intermittent FMLA, I would share with you that intermittent FMLA is usually used for situations that may be fluid or a little bit unpredictable. As an example, maybe a staff member has a loved one that has been diagnosed with cancer, and a treatment plan is being developed. And if you've ever had a family member that's dealt with cancer, there's a lot of unpredictabilities. They may have chemotherapy or radiation on Tuesday, and after that treatment, you know, you may have to drive them to and from and be there to support them on that Tuesday, and you might be able to come back on Wednesday, but maybe they don't feel so well after that treatment, and the staff member has to take an additional day off. And so what intermittent FMLA does and how we cover it, generally speaking, would be with our very, very valuable building subs or with a substitute teacher. There's other FMLAs in there that maybe are longer in nature, or excuse me, maybe more consistent in nature, where someone is out for a significant period of time. Maybe they've had a child, maybe they're having a procedure, something along those lines. And again, depending on the length of it, the people that we can hire, sometimes we hire to replace that. A short-term person for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or sometimes we again utilize our building subs. So it really depends. I would say that FMLA is an important process to provide our staff some flexibility to deal with some very difficult situations. But I would also say that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's pretty complicated and complex, and it's really individualized for each person.
Raquel, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I noticed the 2 that caught my attention. I don't know if you saw it. There's 4 of them that are less than a month long. And then,
Right.
And then 3 of them are intermittent, so I was assuming that we wouldn't replace for less than a month. I mean.
We
right,
probably,
like,
it all depends, because you're not gonna go through again, it depends on the FMLA. If we have forewarning, then maybe we would go to try to find somebody for a short term. But if we find out on Tuesday night that a person is gonna be out for 4 weeks, starting the following day, probably not time to go find a brand-new person unless we have a connection with somebody. A lot of times, we have a lot of consistent substitutes in our buildings that know the building, they know the staff, they know the students, and those people fill that void for some of those more short-term, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That might be it too. It just depends.
So I know this will probably not be liked, but I know that Best Buy has a little over a year in their contract, and maybe we need to kind of look at opening it up and what needs to happen for that. I just think it's something that we need to look at, because it seems like we're losing more than we're gaining. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Oh, I just said, I know that Best Buy has a little more than a year left on their contract, and it might be something that we want to look into opening back up. Because I think it's like we're losing more than we're gaining. Like, they can go down the road and get, what, $2 more? Oh.
Yeah.
Why don't, oh, yeah. So then, going back to the bills and pays. I just have one, and I'm sorry if I missed it, Tony, but I don't know, there was a Mohawk again for the 11,000. And I don't know what the Mohawk is. And I don't know. Yeah, it was Mohawk, page 71. It says Mohawk USA Education. I just didn't know what it was again.
I don't know what that is.
I was
Does it
looking
say
at
what
that for
next to
next
it?
meeting, because that
Yeah.
might come up again.
And then, so going to the report card, I just have a couple questions, is for science, why is there a higher participation rate for ELA than science? Do we not give it to everybody? Is that what that is? Or like, because like math and ELA had a 99% participation rate, where science had 77%. I was just curious. If we only give it to,
I'm not entirely sure, but I also need to make sure that the board is aware, as stated in the memo, that the report card link that's provided to you is where we house the report card. That data is actually under embargo by ISB. It's not going to be released and updated until October 30th.
okay.
So what's currently up on our website is reflective of the previous
Year.
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years. Yeah, I saw that
They work in
too.
arrears. So on October 27th, ISB will be taking down all live and active report cards, updating them over the weekend, and then on the 30th, they will be released. And that's why we're coming to you for permission to release it once ISB has
Oh, I see.
updated the report cards, and then it goes live. And
So
then
this
our
one-
technology team will update our link to reflect where the report card data is.
So this one, I'm sorry, so this one is live now, or it's gonna go live on,
After October 30th.
okay,
We're just authorizing them to release the information.
Right.
okay,
It's a bit of a technicality that the board has to do.
oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, we're required to get your vote
Oh,
of
I
consent,
see. I see.
so that then once the state makes all those links live, we can actually publish it.
Oh, okay.
So everybody knows that you'll be able to view it very soon, but we're just authorizing the district to release that information.
I think it could be maybe more clear in the memo, but it says the upcoming 2023 report cards. They're not there yet.
Okay.
So the report cards always work in a year arrears. So when you see the new updated report card, it's of fiscal year '23.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Rico. Any other questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as present.
So moved?
Second.
So moved by Aaron, second by Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Tom, is there anything to share this evening under reports?
Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and go down the line. Under 6.1, board, the FOIA requests are presented to you as responded to.
Okay.
Questions? Okay. Moving then to 6.2, under treasurer's report, I'll turn it over to Tony if there's anything to add.
Nothing out of the ordinary to present here.
Under section 6.3, you see the draft for the 24-25 school calendar. We just wanted to get that in front of the board for review. Dr. Newkirk and the union have met, and Dr. Newkirk has also met with leadership and other constituents to make sure we made adjustments that would appropriately fit for what the draft calendar needs to look like. Keeping in mind that the governor has reinstituted the mandatory no day of school on November 10th for our election. No, I'm sorry, I'm using Veterans Day weekend. Sorry, November 4th, I believe it is, for our voting day, so for the state, 5th, November 5th, just in case. Thanks for looking out, Steve. So, November 5th. So anyway, so that's what built in. We did have a draft. We had to make an adjustment once that came out, and then, So you have a month to preview. We wanted to present it to you and the public, and then we'll have a vote at next month's meeting. Okay. All right. And then the next item is actually Board Member Locke. Under Delegate Assembly. Is there any discussion there?
No, I just wanted to point out that everyone at their seat has the information for the delegates for the III meeting. Read through them. If you have any comments, you can go ahead and email me your comments.
Yeah, just so everyone's aware, Sue has volunteered to be the delegate, sort of volunteered, voluntold.
Yeah, because I'm the only one willing to get up in the morning and go.
True.
I think that's what it was.
And so that's a part of kind of the III session, and school board members and others get together to kind of feel like they should kind of lobby for or against at a state level. So
And don't put too much weight into this, because
it's not actually making decisions or
Yeah.
enacting anything, it's just stating a position
Yeah.
on various
there's
educationally
a weight
related
behind it.
topics. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Sue? Please feel free to give her any information that you have. Or
Before the
opinions.
meeting on next month.
Yeah.
Not this meeting, but the conference.
Yeah. Okay. Board policy, Tom.
Okay, board policy. So this is a first read for the Board of Education. I would like to note and give some thanks and appreciation to Rob and Danielle for meeting with me. We spent time looking over all the policy review that you're seeing here tonight. We walked through them. Rob, are you comfortable if I just kind of run through it? And if you want to just jump in, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we reviewed policies. The first set of policies you'll notice, well, let me back up. We subscribe to PRESS, which is a service of the Illinois Association of School Boards. This is a service that is provided to hundreds of school districts in the state of Illinois. The policy review process is reviewed and vetted by a team of attorneys through their association that focus on school law, and they maintain and track how to continually update what school board policy manuals should look like as the state of Illinois passes new legislation impacting schools, right? So what you'll see in our board policy manuals, or specifically on board policies, are typically like footnotes and legal references in addition to the bulk main language, the core language of a board policy. What you see under policies 2:080, 2:170, 4:045, and 4:100, along with policies 7:275, 7:305, 7:330, 8:025, and 8:095. You'll notice that under those specific policies, I reviewed them with both Rob and Danielle, and then in those policies, they are just updating legal references, cross-references as new case law might have come and been decided upon, then they will go ahead and update those things. But if you look at the policy itself that's in your board book, none of the language was substantially changed at all in the policy. Sometimes some of those minor changes, they're actually cleaning up a typo they may have caught that was not caught in the past. They clean it up, but it is a change to policy, so you have to review it and then approve it, okay? The ones that we'll spend just a little more time looking at more closely, so the policies I just read to you, that's exactly what's happening. Nothing substantive in the actual policy itself is changing. And I don't know if, are you good with that?
Yes,
Anything to
yeah,
add?
yeah.
Okay. Then if you take a look at board policy 5230, talking about maintaining student discipline, the following four policies that the board is going to be reviewing over the next month are four policies that do not currently align to the press manual. And some of these are policies that have not been updated in years. So what you see before you is a recommendation to approve the rewritten policies as presented by press, which would bring us aligned into alignment with current best practice and advised practice by our legally reviewed services through IASB. So under 5230, you'll see there is a reconstruction of some of the language in from what our current board policy is to what we're recommending. And some of it, in terms of the language that we're asking you to adopt, will remove language that's in the current policy under student maintaining student discipline. However, that language can be found in other areas of our board manual, such as section 6. So some of the language there is not being lost. It's just simply cleaning up this particular policy as recommended by the press group, okay? Under policy 6:010, same thing, our educational philosophy policy is not aligned to what is currently in press. Press is actually providing us with a much more robust policy format, as you note in the attachment. And what's nice is a lot of the review areas are covered by the very committees that you as board members just reviewed that you participate in. So like curricular things might go through CAC, things regarding facilities might go through RAC, et cetera. All right? Or even matters regarding inclusion and equity that might go through our equity committee at this point, too, as point of discussion. Okay? Do I have any questions so far? Awesome. The third one, policy 6190. So at the moment, we would also recommend this change. There will be a major overhaul by going to this policy. This has not been updated in 6 years, and so we felt that it'd be necessary at the moment to go ahead and move towards the press policy language on extracurricular activities. All right. Guys are. And then the final one on student travel. We are recommending to adopt policy 6240. In particular, I do want the board to be aware of the fact that we currently have this policy under section 7 as policy 7320. We are recommending that that policy stay there and that we allow ourselves to work through that because that is currently the existing policy. There are some things there that we use as part of our protocols in the district when it comes to student travel and field trips, but we have nothing under section 6. So we are recommending that we adopt section 6's policy that was recommended by press, and then we will work to align section 7's policy, and then at a later date present that to the board.
So press is 6, ours is
The
7.
press's policy, yes, so this is where it gets a little tricky, right? So the policy we're asking you to approve is 6240, or a review for next month's approval is 6240. We have a policy already in place that is similar to the language and spirit of this policy, but it resides under section 7 right now.
Is a suggestion to move it to a different section specifically, or is there a large difference in?
No, so this is a policy that hasn't been updated in 5 years. Currently, since we don't have anything under section 6, we're trying to make an effort to kind of bring ourselves back to what is being recommended as best practice for our board policy manual. This had some iterations of some homegrown language into it, which we wanted, that's why before we undo anything in this particular policy, you know what I mean, like, no good deed goes unpunished, you know, if we were to change something there, and being the new person here, I don't wanna accidentally undo something that was intended in good spirit, but then all of a sudden we're like, Tom, you just eliminated that policy with the board. So it's like, we're gonna take time in understanding that one, and make sure we dig into any of the edits and changes on that, but the policy under section 6 would work for everything that our district needs to do.
So there's updates on these, 5 years. Is that because laws change or just, that's primarily what's driving most of this, right?
Yeah, or there's case law or something that has caused them
Inherent.
to do
So it's
that.
not like we have an inherently bad policy, it's just the laws.
No, and then like this one, 7320, this is just one of those cases where some additional language was added and then modified into it. So I want to make sure that we are bringing ourselves to, some of our better strong practices that are being recommended with updates. But I want to understand also what some of this language, what we want to tweak to make sure it matches then what we're philosophically pursuing.
Yeah, and it happens, like you said, with some regularity, and
Yeah.
I think 2 years ago when I did this with, our former superintendent, it was like 800 pages worth of review. It was monstrous at that time.
We used to have a whole
So-
committee.
Yeah, so. it
Yeah,
was
the
quite
last,
intensive.
as you know, last 3 to 5 years has seen the most educational impacting bills passed through legislation at the state, in Springfield, in the state's history, impacting schools. So it's a lot of districts are trying to keep up with all the changes and updates.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask,
a question or a favor maybe?
Yeah.
And it's just me. Or maybe it was done this way before, but, like, I know there's the link down here below, the PDF, but is there some way we could have a link, like, I'm looking at parental involvement, 8:095. Could we have a link on that where I just click and get, it takes me to the, I hate change.
Yeah.
I think that's how it used to be. And I could just click on that, and it's easier for me to, does that make sense?
Yep. So if this table that's in the board book up here on the
Yeah.
agenda had hot links, live links to those actual policies, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, I mean, it's not that I can't go down, but then I have to scroll down the whole thing and find the one that I'm looking for, which, what I'm probably gonna end up doing is printing out the whole thing anyways, but while I'm going through it, I can just click on the one I want.
No problem.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's just, I think it's easier.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Well, we can certainly do that. No problem. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, so if there's no other questions on that, we will, if you do have questions in the meantime, between now and the next board meeting, please do not hesitate to contact me. I'm more than happy to spend time talking to you through anything, or Rob and Danielle. I think they have a really good understanding of it after we talked for almost 2 hours, right? So, yeah, we did have a lot of laughs.
Yes, we did.
All right. So then the final item under reports is our capital projects plan report. And Tony, are you good to go at this time if I turn it over to you?
Sure, I'm going to invite Mark to the podium as well, so I'll kind of kick things off. And the intention here is to have a discussion, not necessarily simply a presentation. But there are two components to this plan, and the first are the projects that we've identified for work in this fiscal year, which is fiscal year 24, work that would take place this summer. You'll notice that this is a report. We're not asking necessarily for your approval, but we are asking for your assent that we're going to start planning for these projects this summer. And so the next component of that, though, are the warm, safe, and dry components that we've identified as being post-referendum what we need to do to keep our schools warm, safe, and dry in the years beyond. But first, we want to start talking about what we believe needs to happen at, in particular, the high school this summer. And that would be replacing the weight room floor. As a matter of fact, that wouldn't happen this summer because it would actually happen over winter break.
Yeah.
Because that floor has deteriorated rapidly, and it needs repair. And then the other work would happen during the summer. So I'll let Mark talk about those, but then we'll come back to the warm, safe, and dry components.
And as Tony mentioned, the weight room floor, the board already passed that last month in action. The next two are mainly focused on the field house and the Fine Arts Center. And basically with those two, I'm going to start on the exterior first. It's really maintenance that's needing to be done. They are starting to show their age. We're getting to the point where it's 13 years old now. Some general maintenance that has to be done. Obviously, it's a little bit different than your house, but it's very similar to your house. You have to do maintenance on your house. This is just maintenance when you get to the field house or the Fine Arts Center. They have 45-foot precast walls. It's a little bit different equipment that's needed. And this is actually great. Thank you for cueing pictures. So there's some pictures up here on the screen. This is looking at the field house, one of the overhead doors, and you can see there's some, really what you're seeing right there is some discoloration, but if you look a little bit closer, you're starting to see some cracks in the walls, things that need to be filled. Part of this will be painting as well, and you can just kind of flip through and I'll let you know when to stop since I'm not controlling this. Thank you, Holly. We're still at the field house, so some more pictures. You can kind of see that diagonal crack going up that's going to be filled and sanded, and then it will be painted. Just some more gutters are involved in this as well. That's one of the downspouts. This is, as you're seeing the stain, this would be on the north side of the building. You're seeing a little bit of stained concrete. This is from where water is dripping from the seams. Now, when it's like this, it's not that big of a deal. It's 70 degrees. But when you get those mornings that are about 30 degrees, 25 degrees, that freezes. So we're constantly putting salt on that. So that's definitely causing a slip hazard. This is looking at the BFAC, Fine Arts Center. So if I say BFAC, it's just, that is Batavia Fine Arts Center. Most of you know that, but I might say that more than once. This is looking at it at its western exposure. Just kind of an overview. That's right, I threw this in, so you know it's the Batavia Fine Arts Center. This one's just getting into more of the cracks. This is up close on that 45-foot precast wall. Again, a lot of, you know, it really only is, the stripes are one color and the rest of it's one color. Right now you're seeing more than one color because of the different fading. Again, this is facing the west, so it definitely gets that western sun. This is an expansion joint right here, as you can see. Now it's, for the most part, has done its job, but I show this picture because if you're on the inside, which I could not, it was not easy to try to get an inside picture of, you can see daylight. It's very difficult. I mean, I could have, but I wasn't, I'm taking that chance to get that picture. But you can see daylight from the inside on this one, so this is starting to cause some issues.
Is that BFAC or is that the?
That's BFAC. So basically, so from the stage, kind of in the, if you're facing the back of the stage in the upper left-hand corner.
Was there a lot of moisture coming in there then, or?
No, there's not a lot of moisture. I mean, it's, when I say daylight, I mean, it's very little. It's not like you're opening your window and seeing daylight.
But that caulk is your only
Correct.
difference between you and the outside.
Yeah.
So,
We can continue. Okay, now the next part is, with this, since we are doing extensive work outside, we're also going to be looking inside the field house. Again, same age. This is just a picture of one of the protective wall mats. Again, it's showing its age and needs to have some updates. Lighting is another one that will be in this. So these are original fixtures. They were upgraded to LED tubes almost 3 years ago now. We had the engineers come in and do a measure of light. So they measure in foot candles, and currently in the field house right now, we're at 17 foot candles. We should be at 50 foot candles. So that is a pretty significant difference. And if you're at the high school, that difference is when you go from the gyms into the field house. So if you happen to be there, because the gyms, we did update that lighting, it's 3 years ago now. Picture right here is of the floor. The floor is basically, the life of this floor, they say, is 10 to 15 years. So we're kind of right in that middle. And it is definitely showing signs that it needs to be replaced. You can just kind of, there's quite a few in here, Holly. Oh, that's right. The other one is, this is what's called a cupola. So what a cupola's job is to do is, basically it's what vents the air. So before we had cooling in there, it was a way to draw in outside air and exhaust the air out. So when you, just kind of really in your house, the same thing. You're bringing air in and then you're bringing it out. The bottom part of this is a pan that really catches the water because it's open, well, kind of, but it's open outside. So when we get a heavy rain and it blows from the south or west, it drains down there, or melting of snow. These were not designed large enough, so the plan is to replace those to a larger footprint so it holds more water and literally then evaporates the water. That's the design of the cupolas. So there's 5 of these. The 2 that are on the far west end of the field house leak onto the floor. And one of them happens to be right in the middle of one of the basketball courts. So that has caused issues over the, well, a few years now. Again, some other pictures of the floor. You can start to see just the discoloration of the floor. And really in this floor, it's also holding a little bit of dirt, and that's really been from years ago when it was originally installed and cleaned. And you can see in some of these pictures, some of the lines are fading, and this is also a picture of just another example of the lights. So really what's happening to these, some of these lights, if you look at it, it's like the bulbs above you, the whole bulb should be lit. These are starting to burn out in almost quarter sections at a time.
We're replacing the whole thing or
The whole fixture, yep. The proposal will be to replace the entire fixture, and it's more protected fixture. So unfortunately, you know, those are sometimes targets. Let's kick the ball and see if we can hit the lights. But the lights that are being proposed to be put in are really meant for that space. And really, I didn't get a great picture because we have all the cages that are kind of strapped up now, some with zip ties, but all of the clips are breaking and things like that. Was that it? Okay.
So this work would take place this summer, and it makes sense to do this all at once because we're gonna come in and do the field house floor. Obviously, we're gonna have to shut down that facility for several weeks to do that, and we may as well take care of the lighting and the other issues at the same time. Because that space is used every day, most of the day, all day long. One of the reasons why the foot candles are as dim in that space as they are is because those lights, they're pretty much always on.
Yeah, so those lights can be controlled, so we can turn them on and off. And I just got a request, it was probably 2 weeks ago. They come on at 6 a.m. and they go off at 11 p.m. to turn them on sooner than 6 because there's groups meeting there before 6 o'clock. So I had to bump that time up to 5 a.m.
This is some of the most heavily used square footage we have in the
By a
district.
broad section of the community.
Correct.
I mean, not just students and teachers.
It's used. That's why the floor looks the way it does, and it's showing its age. You know, so I know almost 14 years old. So
It's been
Alright, it's
utilized
getting
way
tight.
past,
Yeah.
like, what might consider sporting events. I mean, when the weather's bad, marching band goes in there and uses it for, continue their practices when the weather's bad instead of canceling it.
Are we, we're open for discussion right now on this?
Yes.
Do you know what items fell off of this? I'm assuming this is all within our budget, right? That's why this is a report, not a request.
Right.
Could you tell me what items 4, 5, and 6 are that didn't make the cut, so to speak?
That'd be a good question for Mark. We're constantly looking at the list of things, and right now, you know, when it comes to warm, safe, dry, it's a pretty massive number.
Right.
And so we're trying to package these together in a way that would make sense. It isn't that, you know, we cut off necessarily 4, 5, and 6 because we'd have an excess of work that we would do in terms of funds for capital projects that we could, in fact, undertake this year. As you recall, we moved money from the operations and maintenance fund to the capital projects fund, kind of using that as a piggy bank so that we don't have to use all that money in a given year and we don't whipsaw between surpluses and deficits. And so for these particular projects, there just happen to be urgent and ones that we can package together in a way that makes sense. But the next topic area are the ones that are also urgent and items that are in not good condition that we need to talk about how we're going to package them together in different ways.
I just want to comment that maybe I need to absorb this more, but it doesn't sit well with me. I understand some of the foundational things, but discoloring, lights being broken because our kids or the students are hitting them, choose my words carefully here. It just feels like a lot of problems that a lot of other schools would love to have. And that's why I'd really be interested to see what areas we're not addressing for this. I get it. I know you guys put a lot of time into this. I just would like to see more of it. Maybe we could talk later about it.
Part of this is we've been waiting for to undertake projects because we were fully anticipating the passage of the referendum. So that's the other factor here too.
I remember that,
And
yeah.
because the planning times on these projects are so long, we have to plan in years. These are the ones that we can pull off in the time frame that we have left. This isn't all these things, you know, how to figure out how to get everything to fit it's an art and it's a science.
Were these part of the original top priority?
Yes.
From the team that did it before the team that did the review?
Well, these ones weren't in particular because we knew we knew we were gonna probably get somewhere between 10 and 15 years on the field house floor. We knew, and we had that marked in our, we call it our capital projects database. That has held a place there for basically since we put the floor in. But we were trying to figure out what are we trying to envision what the future is gonna be for our school facilities? How do we make those facilities match the educational environment of today and be flexible for the educational environment of tomorrow? All we're talking about here right now today, though, however, post-referendum, is maintenance. We're not talking about any functional improvements that would actually improve our facilities for our programs and for educational environments. We're just kind of keeping the lights on.
Yep, this is what we're at. We're just
But we had been waiting for many, many years as we were building this master facilities plan, working with the community to get stakeholder input on what they wanted to see in their facilities and talking about what it was that we were willing to pay for and afford. And we all know how, unfortunately, that referendum turned out. And now we're left figuring out what the next steps are. This project's identified for work this fiscal year. It's kind of the interim step. These are things that we know that must get done.
Okay.
The next conversation that we need to have, though, is how we're going to keep our schools warm, safe, and dry beyond this coming year, and how are we going to be able to fund that? How much can we afford to pay for these projects? Because as you can see, it's a massive amount of money, and the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets, and the more our facilities deteriorate. But these are just the essentials of the essentials. These are not wants, these are needs.
So just a few questions, I know the BFAC, for the caulk's coming undone, but the cracks in the gutters, is there any water damage on the inside of the buildings, or,
Just on the field house, as far as those cupolas leaking. Really, the gutters are just outside on, concrete, and that's just, getting new gutters to fix that piece. But as far as in the Fine Arts Center right now, there's not any significant water damage coming into it. But again, when you're, like I said before, when you're dealing with a 45-foot precast wall, that can change pretty quickly. So we definitely monitor it. And those really, these inspections that, professionals came out and did has been over a year ago at this point. So again, this is just something that, they're inspecting these because it was time to inspect them in the field house, and really more than that got done. But this is one that are packaged together. Really the entire building got done, but this is just one portion of it at this point.
And you can see, it's not just paint when it comes to these precast walls. If we don't put a fresh coat of paint on them and treat these cracks, we're gonna have bigger problems on our hand. This isn't, so we just wanna make it look nice. No, this is what we need to do to protect our investment. We're very lucky to have what we have, and we use this facility extensively, and it requires real work and maintenance to do that. And it happens to fit in our budget right now. It happens to be a project that we can pull off relatively quickly until we can contemplate the next steps for warm, safe, and dry.
I'll point out that one of the discussions that came up a lot during the referendum discussions was, why did the buildings get to this point? Why weren't they kept up? So there's a good argument on the side of doing this, is the maintenance to keep it regular instead of asking for $1 million to fix it, or a couple $1 million to fix it. So, thank you.
and then with the floor, will the new floor be like an upgrade from like the existing, has the technology gone and made it better?
Yes, this is definitely going to be an upgrade to what is there now.
And is there any special cleaning, because I know in one of the meetings it said that we didn't clean it right, so just, what do we have to do to maintain it better?
Yeah, so basically, the manufacturer gives you exactly what you do to clean this. There's two types of floor. There's the track surface, and then there's the court surface. And really with the court surface, and well, both of them, we already have the equipment. The track surface is basically, you gotta keep it clean, not scrubbing it clean, but keep it clean with like a sweeper. And then the other one, there's 6 months, a year, 5 years, it's all laid out exactly what you have to do.
So it could be better maintained?
I plan on being here for another 10 years, yeah.
I do want to say, this is These repairs are not because of dereliction of duty and maintaining, there's a shelf life to these.
Yes, right.
And so things need to be replaced or repaired, so you could say maybe we would, we were waiting on a referendum to see what that happened, so maybe we waited a little bit, like a year maybe, but this was the backup, like, we knew this was coming if the referendum didn't pass, so.
Yeah, the referendum had no bearing on when we needed to replace the.
Right, yeah.
It would have needed to happen anyway. We get another year out of it? Yeah, we probably could. But we've got a lot of other projects that need to be done too. So we've got to figure out how this stuff fits together and what makes sense.
We need to be asking what's not being done.
You have other questions, Raquel? No. I would suggest then that we move on to warm, safe, and dry to make sure that you have an idea of what that is. And it's a pretty plain title, as you can tell, and I think it captures the essence of what we're trying to accomplish here. These are what we call the priority 1 and priority 2 projects that we identified in our master facilities planning process. As you know, we hired our architects, DLR, and they came and did a very in-depth assessment of our schools. And it wasn't just to find the stuff that needed to be replaced, it was to envision what educational spaces need to be like today to meet our needs for students and to meet the styles and needs of our teachers, and then to make sure that those were flexible enough to meet the evolving needs of tomorrow. And so it was a full plan that was intended to get us from here to there over a period of about 15 years. Well, with the failure of the referenda, we're left without funding to keep working on these projects. And the Capital Projects Committee has been struggling with the amount of projects that need to be undertaken and the approach that we would take to get to them. And so that's why we undertook this master facilities planning process. So here we find ourselves now, and we want to talk more about what these bare essentials are. I'm going to give you an idea of what kind of the categories and concepts of what they include, and start beginning this conversation in terms of how we might undertake them with funds that we have available. You want to talk about these pictures, Mark?
I can talk about the picture, sure. What you see here is what's called a rooftop unit. So this is similar. There's 4 of these. Well, 8 total, so 4 at HC Storm and 4 at Louise White. And you can also see the picture of the roof, which that roof, probably like, yeah, okay, that's a roof. Well, that roof is 45 years old. It is definitely ready to be replaced. It has been. We are having some roof. This is actually, thank you for going to the next one. I want to take a little time on this picture. If you look at the different colorations of that picture, so that's a roof drain. You can tell how many times that has been repaired. I mean, literally, you can start counting the different colors and the different age of that. And really, that's what, well, I've been in this role now 7 years, and every single year we come and we are repairing these roofs. And we do it throughout the entire district annually. More time is definitely spent at Louise White and HC Storm because of the age. But back to the rooftop ones, really, if you're talking about replacing roofs, you're not leaving rooftop units that are 15 years old there, because you have to remove them to put the roof on. And we are having some, mechanical issues with some of the rooftop units at those schools as well. This is just another picture of the roof. This is Louise White. Also can show the skylight. So each one of the pods at Storm and Louise have natural daylight comes out in the center of the pod. And this is one of those, which I believe that, well, I know that one's being replaced. A lot of them are starting to drip a little bit. Seals are breaking, things like that. And I can't wait a couple more years on these because they have to be replaced. You can keep going, Holly. Again, another example of the roof and a rooftop unit. This is when we talk about the shell of the building, the outside of the building. You can tell there's some cracking going on here. Definitely tuck pointing is needed. Continue. This one's Louise White. I believe I got a picture, yeah. There you go, my reminder. Now moving into domestic piping. This is a picture of bathroom at JB Nelson. So when there's a leak that occurs, you cross your fingers that you can figure out exactly where to start punching a hole into the wall to fix it. And that's at least 2 repairs done inside the bathroom. So it's galvanized pipe. It is original. This is, so both Gustafson and JB Nelson have tunnels that go underneath the building. Oh, that's not a picture. This is a picture of the pipes that are in the bathroom, in between kind of the bathrooms that feed both boys and girls bathrooms. We're gonna get to the next one though. There it is. So this is a tunnel at JB Nelson. This is JB Nelson. So both domestic water and the heating and cooling. So the hot water and the cold water that heats and cools is all run under a tunnel system. And that is literally the height of it. It's not even 4 feet tall. If you go to the next picture. And yes, those have to be posted because it is a confined space. And it is always a contractor that comes in at a higher cost than just working on a normal piping. So none of our employees in the district have this certification. This is a picture of an air handler. That's from, let's say, late 80s. You can go to the next picture and just kind of shows you the piping that feeds it. This is an example of a univent in a classroom. So that univent, I tried to capture this. So basically, if you see those, 5 to 10 students sitting right there, compared to the 5 or 10 students that are sitting away from there, they're either going to be really hot or really cold, depending on the season. It's not the most efficient way to cool or heat spaces, but I would say that's most of our buildings are done that way. And then the next picture shows the inside of the univent. And this univent, this is an example at JB Nelson and Gustafson. These were installed in 1989. They're definitely past their useful life. Same type of situation at the C wing, so the 1995 edition at the high school. Very similar experience for students as far as, and then the other piece that univents seem to do is they tend to make a little bit of noise, and we're always in there adjusting and making sure the cover's on correctly or if there's a loose piece in there. But this piece, I tried to get this picture a little bit better, but you can tell the piping in there that's feeding it has a number of, I call them Band-Aids. They're not really Band-Aids, but they're just different repairs that have happened. Again, these are just examples, of what we're talking when we're talking warm, safe, dry. This is the outside of C-Wing. And we are starting, especially in this corner, starting to see a little bit of water penetration. Nothing major at this point. And Holly, the next 2 are just more examples of C-Wing. I believe that is it.
Mark, quick question. With some of the piping that you're referring to in some of our buildings for the water lines, are some of those original to the building's footprint?
Yes. Yeah, so you're talking 1957, 1955.
So when you showed us pictures of where we have to punch through to fix things, is it possible because of the age of some of those pipes that when our teams are going in to try and repair those, that it's going to compromise the integrity of some of the other original piping? Or that area itself?
Yeah.
And require
And
larger repair?
most of the repairs we're doing are within feet of the other repair.
Okay.
And basically, it's like a big boot that you put on, and you just clamp both ends, and you're really putting copper boot on a galvanized pipe. And that's how it is throughout that entire building.
As you
pointed out, sometimes cutting out galvanized pipe is a violent process to the pipe, and you can cause other leaks down the line.
And we always try to, depending on the repair, try to go to the seam, you know, but sometimes it doesn't work that way.
So suffice to say that JB Nelson, like the entirety of the galvanized piping at this point, at this age, needs to be replaced because it's essentially it's going to keep breaking and degrading over time.
And this is the same situation at the high school. So the original part of the high school, so the 1966 part, all of those are still original galvanized pipe that feed kind of the center of the high school.
So to give you a better idea of what's involved in each of these projects, kind of a breakdown by year is provided in the board report. That's the CPP list, or the capital projects planned list. And Holly, if you would open that up, please. Gives you a little bit of description of the school and the kind of scope of work and an estimated cost in the fiscal year with which we could undertake this work. We're talking about substantial costs, however, particularly when you get to Storm and Louise. So we've also provided a pro forma in terms of funding, in terms of what the district could afford, with operating funds, increasing the amount that we allocate in operating funds toward capital projects, and spending some fund balance. It is theoretically possible that we could undertake this work. But this should be thought of as a framework, is again, one project that you might undertake, it might make sense to package that with another project, a year from now. So any one of these projects could be removed. Other projects that we are unaware of at this time could be added. They could be combined with others. They could be repackaged. This is just kind of like a high-level framework to think of in terms of how we could address the idea of keeping our schools warm, safe, and dry. And it would cost something to the tune of, $52 million over 5 years. This doesn't do anything, again, to improve our educational environments, to facilitate better instruction. This is just warm, safe,
This
and
is
dry.
bare minimum.
This is bare minimum.
Well, right, these are the highest priorities. We had to kind of, I don't want to say eliminate, push down the line some others, but these are the highest ones.
This isn't investing in new technology or?
No, this isn't investing in any kind of efficiencies that would, let's say, maybe, we pay pretty significant costs for electricity, and we pay a pretty significant cost for demand charges. This wouldn't, be any kind of investment that could offset those. This isn't any kind of investment, like geothermal that could make our schools more efficient in terms of heating them or cooling them, or even putting in better insulation to keep them, prevent heat loss or thermal penetration, those sorts of things. This is the bare minimum.
Well, an example too of some of this to push down towards outside of 5 years is, there's 2 of the chillers at 2 elementary schools that are at a point where they should be replaced. In here, it's proposing to do a refresh on them, and what a refresh means is to kind of go through and get another 5 years, so you get a 5-year warranty, so hopefully push that down, but again, it's not going away, it's just, trying to be more, fiscal with your money and do it that way.
But it also assumes each year that there's a 5-year, an average of a 5% escalation cost, because as we know, inflation is a real thing, especially inflation in terms of school construction costs, which have gone up well over 20% in the last couple of years. But we're assuming, as time goes on, these projects are going to get more expensive. And so we have some basis we have a basic assumption in there for that. It could be more, it could be less. But the longer we wait, the more expensive this gets. It also includes secure vestibules for Storm and Louise, as those are the only 2 schools that do not have them as of right now. But what also isn't in here is the full investment in terms of costs for supporting full-day kindergarten. So we're close to being able to support full-day kindergarten from a facility standpoint, but there's some things that we need to do so that we can support that additional section in our schools.
If I could, when we look at this fiscal year, we're going July to June for fiscal year, right? I did fiscal years in June 30.
Yeah.
So for FY 2026,
when we were finally going to address major safety concerns at two of our schools, we won't actually see that improvement until fall of 2026,
There's some,
2027 school year.
that would, so those renovations would be pretty extensive, and they would require both extensive planning and bidding, and so that's about the soonest we could pull it off.
So they might not even start at that point. Because,
They would get underway in fiscal '25, potentially.
And that
But
would
we need
involve-
we need about a year to plan those projects.
and that would involve displacement of students? Or is that
Well-
unable to decide?
There's a chance it could,
Yeah.
obviously, we wouldn't want to do that.
It's heartbreaking to me to even see this, but
You say displacements out trailers, is that what you're talking
And
about?
well, no, because we couldn't afford to do trailers, but there's obviously, there might need to be phasing in terms of how we tackle some of this stuff, and so. We have like a high-level plan, conceptual, where we've talked about this preliminarily as to how we might approach it. But we don't know until we actually start working with the architects and engineers to actually put pen to paper and figure out how the pieces fit together, and then work with our construction manager to make it happen.
The dollars you're really showing there, like on FY '26, is actual construction dollars, not necessarily architectural fees, construction management fees, or anything else that are occurring the years beforehand.
We do have some allowances for those,
They're kind of packed into your number, but
Yeah.
you may be expending some of those in the earlier year or
Yeah.
two.
That's the top line item you see up there, fees.
Okay, fees is,
Because
Yeah.
yep, thank you.
you start planning before.
Yep.
And it's never on the same fiscal year.
So the 25 is planning for 26.
Correct.
Actual construction work. Thank you. One of my questions is, just for everybody's purpose, refresh my memory, which I know, but just for purpose of discussion, which are the two schools that we were potentially replacing as a part of the referendum?
Those are they.
Storm and Louise White.
Stones and Lewis and White. So the one consideration I want to bring up for discussion or consideration for the board is potentially by doing significant renovations, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing these, I'm just asking the question. We potentially put at jeopardy an ability to, in the future, significantly renovate, replace those schools as a part, because you would be ostensibly doing this work and throwing out, putting good money after bad as a point. Again, I'm not trying to weigh decisions, because I believe a lot of the work is critical in nature. But I just want to make sure we're aware that the part of the difficulty of being a board member is making decisions like this. So, which is probably why it's breaking your heart.
Oh, yeah, there's no improvement to learning environment.
Right. And to
We
a certain
want the students to have better grades, which I've heard lots of times from public. So, yeah, it's disheartening.
And the ability to achieve that later is now effectively established
yeah.
as renovations, not replacement.
I mean, these are our top priorities that we're saying for the next 5 years to address top priorities. Yeah. I mean, I'm not even seeing in here the doors that have to be, hinged open because they don't,
Is that health, life,
they don't hold open
safety or
appropriately. There's,
That's a good question. So could you say that again?
Health, life, safety, isn't that part of something you have to do every year? Or
No.
is that,
Yeah, we're just about, 2024, so we will be getting the 10-year health, life, safety survey that is going on as we speak.
okay. So
There
will
are
that
some,
be in here or?
some that have already been done
Okay.
in there. You'll see some fire alarm and smoke detectors and heat sensors upgrades in schools.
Okay, yeah.
Really,
I see
all
10-year
of
health,
them.
life, safety,
Storm and
okay.
Louise is on there, I know for sure, even at McWayne and Hooverwood.
Yeah, okay.
those are
That's-
important since there's no sprinklers in the schools.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't have that.
In Storm and Louise, correct. Well, no, there's some of Louise, CPOT at Louise has sprinklers.
My question is, you're laying this out, you're saying, based off the current assumptions we have, that there's a way to us to fund this currently, assuming.
It's possible, but a lot of things have to go our way.
Right, like the last meeting, before, we were talking about how we've really never been in a better financial position where we actually have the capability to do some of this stuff. Before, we were having to take out loans to make payroll, not that long ago. So we've worked very hard to get to this point, but if we were to do this, this would probably put us, I mean, this is like walking a tightrope.
It is, yeah. And the assumption is that we're increasing our allocations for capital projects by 15% each year. That sounds like a big
Huge.
number. And it is a big number, but keep in mind, escalation costs for just in the last year was 20%, so we're not even keeping up with inflation this year.
Tony, I think one of the points I'd like to point out for the board too is, what's our new money for state aid? What was the increase? Say it.
$5,000. Literally, it wasn't like 5,000 per student. It was $5,000.
So essentially, we are remaining static, flat on our state aid, while you're hearing a presentation that's talking about inflation on construction projects, which is real. School districts all across are facing that, and that's why you are seeing some school districts announcing aggressive plans to address it, just like why we were having this conversation with you as a board. We do need the board to have these conversations. You know, if you look in the papers, district a little bit to the northeast of us, just announced to their board, they have a list of a potentially close to $1 billion in capital projects that need to be addressed. So, and that's probably not gonna go down if they tried to tackle that entire list. Fortunately, we're not in that type of situation, but, I don't know, Tony, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no,
I just
it's fine.
wanted, because we were talking about inflation and cost shifts of where our funding source is coming from. So that's, in terms of state aid, that's where we're at.
And then additionally, the state is requiring full-day kindergarten
Correct.
with a $5,000 bump this year.
So one of the things that we're working on right now, and this is the season for us to do our annual 5-year financial forecast. And usually we're bringing it to the board, you know, right about November or December timeframe. Somewhere in there, we expect that we'll have that done. We've done some preliminary numbers with what we know right now, but we're not yet finished with our audit for the last fiscal year. So we have to work with our Resource Responsibility Advisory Council to finish that projection. And we'll have some more information that would get into a little bit more depth about this pro forma that I've shown you and whether or not those assumptions will hold. But this is something, again, it's a framework. We know we need to do this work. We can't sit on our hands. Nobody's gonna come save us. We have to start. What are the highest priorities and how are we gonna tackle this? And so the only way that we can do that is by having these conversations with you and making sure that you understand all the puzzle pieces so that we can fit them together and make decisions as to how we move forward to best support our students and make sure that we keep learning moving forward. Because the decisions that we make today, they really will affect the next generation. We see evidence of that all over. You know, I've been lucky enough to have been part of this organization for over 25 years. I can see evidence of the decisions that boards before you made 25 years ago and the capabilities that we have today. The decisions are weighty, but I know that we'll figure it out and we'll keep moving forward.
Let me ask you this question. By funding it, if we were to do this by ourselves without going a different route or coming up with a different plan, I mean, what kind of things would this limit us from doing other types of investment that might be required?
Well, the assumption, the base assumption is fundamentally that we don't hire any more employees, more than we have today. I didn't add any more FTE into the financial assumptions, and the numbers are starting to go the other way when you get into the out years. Now, you know, things play when you get into years 4 and 5 of any forecast, you know, a little bit. You know, you can't get at things exactly, but the basic assumption is not a single more hire. Given our history, I don't think that's a realistic assumption. You know, as I've been saying this, we have fewer students now than we did 10 years ago, and yet every year we're hiring more FTE. But we're going to have to wrestle with that. If we want to take care of our schools, we're going to have to wrestle with that. These are very challenging decisions.
Well, I'll just say that, you know, I mean, you're right, we have to face this now. We've made decisions as a community, and now this is the cold, hard facts. And it's just a little disheartening because what we're talking about is such basic stuff. Warm, safe, and dry. I mean, we'd all hope we could do a little bit better than that for our kids, I guess, and the people that work in those buildings and are in those buildings, so.
And we had the opportunity.
And the good news is that we have done some work that this is even a possibility, that we're, we can even entertain it. Because 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, we would just found out what we would have done.
Yeah, we couldn't do
We
it.
wouldn't have done it. We just would have had
Yeah,
gaps in the wall.
that's true.
And then that's when it really got bad,
Yeah.
right?
No, we were talking about laying off 100 teachers over 12 years ago, when we were facing the Great Recession. Yeah.
Can't have questions at
Why
this
are
point.
you raising your hand? No.
No.
Can I write it to you?
You can send an email. That'd be absolutely fine.
So you can mull this over a little bit. If there's anything, like, as I said earlier, I don't want to, I have a tendency to cheer people up when I talk about our finances sometimes. But,
Well, this helped with that.
this sets a baseline for our conversation in the coming months. You're gonna see more of capital projects, unless you want to take a different direction for the field house coming to you for approval. But we're gonna have to keep talking about this and what the next steps are. We'll get more information from this financial forecast, you get more information from our strategic planning process, input from the community, and you'll have more information when we get to the levy and we build in the next year's budget and those sorts of things. And so all these pieces will fit together. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but I do want you to have, again, all those puzzle pieces so you can put it together.
Well, and to highlight something that Tony has already raised, and RJ, this was part of your conversation, is that with some of the projects, it does take a longer runway for us to start getting official plans in place, bid processes moving. So this conversation is important. No decisions on the docket tonight.
Unless you have
There's a
other
big
direction
but.
for us. Unless you have other direction for us on this, on the field house and the BFAC. And if there's anything else that I missed, Mark, that you can think of.
So what I'm hearing is on the warm, safe, and dry element, there's gonna be continued conversation on that. So any questions that you'd like to have us pose to you would be fine as needed and whenever needed, correct? But what I'm kind of hearing is a opinion or consensus on the board from items 1, 2, and 3 as to any objections to moving forward with those 3 items.
It's actually just 2 and 3.
2 and 3, yes, we already did 1, didn't we? Thank you,
1 is 2 months away.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I have the next one, too.
Okay. You don't want to sit down for 30 seconds,
Nah.
Mark?
I've been standing here long enough. I
All
think
right, so
30 more
next are
seconds. Good.
items that we require board action. First one, Mark has retaining possession of the podium for the approval of purchase of a delivery truck.
As it says in the report, we have 2 delivery trucks for the district. The one we use the most is 2016. It has 60+ thousand miles on it. It doesn't sound like a lot, all of you driving vehicles, but this is the truck that basically drives through town, at least 3 times a day. It's to every school at least twice. This delivery truck does all of the lunches, so the middle school does all the lunches for the east side elementaries, and the high school does all the lunches for the west side elementaries. This also delivers a number of different supplies and, anything from a ballast to copy paper to elementary student supplies. The backup is over 100,000. It's definitely seen its age. The plan would be is to basically retire or put for auction the oldest box truck, and then the 2016, the one we're currently using, would kind of go as a backup. Now I say backup, it really is a backup. If something would happen to the one, we have another one because we have to get lunches to school. I mean, that's kind of a necessity. But even through the summer, they're used, both of them trucks are used a lot during the summer. And this time of year, both of these trucks are used. The oldest truck, I kind of have a 10-mile radius of Batavia at this point. Seriously, Greg's laughing because he knows.
I know very well.
and that's about all it can go. But the current one, we use both of them for both marching band. We just heard about marching band for their competitions they go to. One of these trucks takes their equipment, and football, they're a little bit closer. They use the other truck for their equipment. So these are used all the time, and I've been looking to get a truck now for about a year, and it's probably gonna take, I hope it's not gonna take a year. Things are getting a little bit better with vehicles and to get them. But this is, you get the chassis, you have to put the box on it, and you have to put a lift gate on it. So all of this takes a little bit of time because we deliver pallets, and so it has to lift 3,000 pounds, because that's what the salt weighs about, and that's what all the copy paper weigh that we take, well, to the different schools. So even though, I mean, I'm hoping that, I doubt I'll get this before winter, it'll probably be towards spring. That even if I get consensus tonight, that's how long it's gonna take.
Any questions on purchase of this vehicle?
Mark, you have a idea of if we auction off the truck or sell it back, what we would get for that?
Believe it or not, I would estimate about $5,000–6,000. But
Who knows, yeah.
it could be 10, it could be 2.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things.
I'll buy that too. I've always wanted one.
No, we'll
Own a truck.
we'll put a limit on it, I can tell you that,
You don't
so it
want
won't
that
go down to
truck.
2.
Rob's looking for a box truck.
I was just gonna go around my cul-de-sac.
I mean,
Radius.
just to point out, because we did get kind of a question emailed to us about kind of like the mileage on it. I mean, these are not easy miles. This is not highway miles of driving
No.
40, 50 miles at a time. This is a mile and a half. Stop the truck, turn it off, do the thing you need to do, turn it on again. It's heavy wear and tear on the vehicle. So, and I can personally attest, particularly from a marching band, as a, the amount that we use those trucks and the ability to take the money that was saved and turn it back in toward props and student usage and food and other things that are budgeted toward it was immensely helpful to the marching band and the music buffs themselves, because they didn't have to donate or to provide as much money as they had in the past to kind of cover the rental rates, which are $400 to $500 a weekend for when they do that for 5 or 6 shows. So it's been critical.
And that $68,000 amount includes everything. So it includes the, lift gate that's on the back, includes the box, it's the whole thing.
All right, any further questions? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the purchase of a new delivery truck in the amount of $68,274.26.
So moved.
Motion by RJ,
Second.
second by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that report. Item 7.2 is approval of the intergovernment agreement with the city of Aurora. Tony.
So, when it comes to intergovernmental agreements, there is an statute that allows the governmental bodies, the public bodies of Illinois, to cooperate, to kind of delegate powers or transfer powers, or to work in a cooperative fashion between them. And that's essentially what we're doing here, is approving an intergovernmental agreement. We're not approving an NDA. An NDA in legal parlance is a non-disclosure agreement. We don't do those. In fact, it's very difficult to do. It's almost impossible. You wouldn't do an NDA in a public school district. We're doing an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to folks. There's no NDA here. There's nothing that nobody can say. And the reason why the city of Aurora has approached us on this is because we have an existing IGA on TIFs, Aurora TIFs 7 and 8, that work very much the same way, that disperse a surplus at 10% of whatever the increment is to the taxing bodies. and for the same kind of agreements that they won't contest or not support the TIF itself. So what we have here is very much a replica of what we already have, an IGA we already have in place with the city for that. And one of the key reasons as to why they have replicated that is because this casino TIF will pull a series of parcels out of TIF 7 as it exists and turn it into this new Farnsworth-Bilter TIF that for its purpose of funding the development plan for the casino. 2 more parcels, if I recall correctly, would be added to this TIF, but essentially this is the agreement that we currently have on these parcels with the city of Aurora. We agreed to it some years ago. I don't remember the exact year off the top of my head, but it was probably something like 2013 or something like that. You have a question?
Was that part of the expansion of the mall, or is that something different?
That's, well, there's part of that, and so, you know, these were created about the time where they expanded the outlet mall.
Yeah.
And because that TIF had expired, it was one of the most successful TIFs in the history of the state of Illinois, as a matter of fact. But they wanted to expand that outlet mall. And so the Board of Education at the time entered into another IGA with the city and with the developer to do a tax rebate. And I think it was last year that we actually fulfilled the obligations of that tax rebate, where we paid the city and the developer back their property taxes to build that development, which now we continue to earn taxes on. So that was an economic incentive for them to expand the mall. I think what's challenging here is the but-for clause, and this is where things get really tricky with TIFs. You know, but for the redevelopment plan and these economic incentives that go with it, the development would not exist. It's kind of the criteria that you have to establish as a municipality before you can move forward with a TIF. But for these conditions, in terms of having this economic incentive, this plan or this development wouldn't, or this redevelopment would not happen. Not necessarily this development, but redevelopment of that space wouldn't happen. Not necessarily, perhaps not with the vision that the city might have. So it gets contentious in terms of how folks interpret that. When it comes to TIFs, the municipalities themselves, they really hold all the cards. So we heard public comments in terms of like how the process works and where the money comes from. There'll be a joint review board, and all of the public bodies that are affected by or have an interest in that TIF are invited to attend. They're not required to attend. And those that show up to the joint review board meeting get a vote. And they get to decide in that meeting as to whether or not, essentially, the redevelopment plan is necessitated by the conditions that exist but for, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if those public bodies, which includes the city of Aurora, they get to send a representative too. If they vote yes for that redevelopment, it still requires action from the city council. If the public body's majority vote no, it could potentially move forward. As a matter of fact, the power still lies with the city council of Aurora. All that happens after that is they require a supermajority to make it happen. So again, when it comes to TIFs, the municipalities hold all the cards. They also have other revenue streams, unfortunately. In this particular instance, the city of Aurora receives considerable gaming revenues from this casino, or stands to receive considerable gaming revenues. They received gaming revenues from the old casino, which have dwindled over time as that casino hasn't competitive with other casinos in the area, especially as the gaming laws have evolved. But they would also stand to receive taxes from sales taxes from other, incidental transactions that may occur in neighboring properties because that casino is there, certainly with the outlet mall nearby. And then the hotels, municipalities have the ability to assess fees and taxes for occupancy of hotels, those sorts of things. So the city has other revenue streams. Unfortunately, we as a school district, we've got two revenue streams. Yeah, well, three. One is property taxes, which we all know we rely exceptionally highly upon here in Batavia. That fund 80% of everything that we do, quite literally, come out of the pockets of residents of this school district and fund our programs. We get the balance of the money from the state, a little bit of money from the feds, and a tiny bit of money from student fees and other incidentals that we, go on here, but not much to speak of. So those are the three revenue streams. And all that the state, that you as a public body have control over is the property taxes, in the sense that you get to levy for those amounts up to the tax cap, but that's it. And so any new development that goes on in town is of keen interest to the school board, because that's basically what's funding your schools. Any new dollar that's going to go into educating our students to make our schools better, to improve our educational programs, that's going to come from property taxes, not going to come from anywhere else. The question is, but for this economic incentive, will the casino be here? That's the question. Unfortunately, you as a public body don't have much power in making that decision. That's within the purview really of the city of Aurora and their city council. You get to talk about their plan and you get to weigh in on it to some extent, but even if you vote no, and the majority of the public bodies who are there with you vote no, all that's required then after is a supermajority of the city council of Aurora. So the question that you have before you is, here the city's offering 10% of the surplus that they would declare. We would get our proportionate share in terms of the tax rate. If you say no to this, it is, in my opinion, not likely that you'll get anything. You get nothing for the duration of the TIF. Other school districts have been able to get better deals, but those, my understanding, is that they are because those particular TIFs generate students. They're usually building homes or townhomes or apartments that are going to increase property values, and they're going to bring students into their schools. You never really can quite tell how many students are going to show up, but depending on the nature of those developments, you can do, some estimations. But in those instances, those are real costs that are going to be immediately borne by the schools, and so in those instances, the city has increased that surplus. But here, the city has committed to a development plan with Penn for this casino, and this TIF will repay the bonds that are going to go toward the casino, and they would be repaid over the duration of that redevelopment plan. And so if they were to give you more money, they'd have to come from somewhere else, because they've built a plan assuming that the money coming into this TIF, which literally is the casino, is going to fund the payment of these bonds. So, as you well know, when it comes to bonds, those obligations are due first. So if you as a public body were to issue bonds, the very first thing you have to do is repay those bonds. You can't do anything else but to repay those bonds. And so the city of Aurora also has those obligations. And if they were to give more money to the school district or the other taxing bodies, they've got to find another place to get that money to repay those bonds.
Any questions?
I've got plenty to say, but looks like you want to go first.
Go ahead, RJ.
All right. My thoughts are jumbled all over the place on this. This is by far the most constrained I've been on a decision for something, which is so funny because it could be completely irrelevant, whatever I say. So I'll just say it. First of all, thank you to everyone that came out here. I appreciate that. I know we're not in discussion with everyone, but still thank you. I'm confused by the public stance on this. And what I mean by that is, We wanted the referendum and the public said no. I understand some people said do it a different way, but it was no. And don't raise our taxes, or you already raise our annual taxes. We don't want any more tax. We don't want any more expenses. Then there's the building proposition by HC Storm for new houses, which would bring us in more tax revenue. The public says, no, we don't want those houses. Then we have a bird in the hand, right? $300,000 or something like that, 10% every single year. So is guaranteed correct? Guaranteed 10% every single year?
Well, it's 10% of the property taxes that it generates.
Okay, so 10% of the property taxes that it generates. Public says no. We don't want that money. But on the other hand, I'm also trying to figure out how much value is in $300,000. Because the referendum was 170,000, I can't remember, or 170 million, I think we settled on. $300,000 to get to $170 million of work we need to do, 500 years?
We have a pro forma right here. I could tell you, we were budgeting $300,000 to upgrade fire alarms at Louise White.
Well, there you go.
So, so is it $300,000 is great, or is there really some sort of significant value of us saying no, and now we're gonna get 20%? And then does that move our projected goal of $170 million to 250 years instead of 500 years? So I'm just super conflicted, because it's just like, if we get $300,000 a year or $600,000 a year, let's say they bump it up, they double how much we're gonna be getting, and I'm just going off make-believe numbers here. Is it worth saying no to now not have a chance to get $300,000 instead of saying yes and we have $300,000 immediately? On the other hand, it costs us $70,000 to get a new truck. So what's the value of $300,000? So as much as I'm not giving any direction or any answer, I'm just letting you all know what's on my mind right now.
Fair.
Because it's just like, I would love to say, well, the public says, you know, they voted for us in this position, and we've heard from maybe 20 people in the public on this, and every single person has said, no, don't vote for this. So I don't know, maybe that's just the way I need to lean, because 20 people spoke up and said no. I'm confused. So if anyone has a good answer for me, I'd love to hear it.
I don't have an answer for you, but I have questions. So,
All right, maybe that'll help.
all right. So again, I want to thank everybody who's here, and, you know, you've been here for 2.5 hours, so thank you. First question. If we send someone to the Joint Review Board, do we have the ability to negotiate on our own a better split or shorter term on the TIF?
The Joint Review Board meeting is not a place to negotiate
Right,
anything.
so all we're doing is up or down on that.
Yeah, you get a vote, yes or no, and that's it. You can ask questions and have a conversation about what their plan is, but ultimately, you vote on their plan, yes or no. And again, if the majority of the taxing bodies vote no, the city of Aurora can move forward with a supermajority of their council.
Another question is, what would be the so I know, like, I've heard, like, okay, TIFs, like one West Washington was a big one downtown. But that, in my opinion, that's a little different, because that was people, housing, moving in, potential students busing. With this casino, I mean, what would we anticipate the burden it would place on the district from a cost standpoint?
But for this economic incentive, if the Penn came in and built this casino, it would mean a lot more money, obviously, to the district's tax rolls.
That's my next question, is what is that area currently approximately? I don't expect you to have the exact number. What's it generating in tax revenue for us at this time?
Nothing. The city of Aurora owns those parcels, and it is tax exempt. So there's zero.
I'll let some other folks speak. I got a few more maybe I might want to ask, but.
What does the outlet mall bring us, that TIF?
I haven't checked recently in terms of what it generates in terms of property taxes, but when it, if my recollection serves, when that TIF expired, it generated $3.2 million worth of new construction toward our property taxes. So basically $3.2 million revenue for us.
That's on an annual basis? Or
But yeah, that's just the outlet mall. It's
Yep, right, understand.
not
And that's,
necessarily apples
that's
to
a very
apples.
successful, I mean, that's, like
It
you
is.
said, that's one of the, it's kind of a little bit of an anomaly.
And I would also say, at the time that that TIF was created in, I don't remember when, it was the 1980s, I know that. It was, in my opinion, a blighted area. It met the definition of the need for support for a TIF, in my humble opinion. But there was no plans to build an outlet mall of any kind. When they created that TIF, it was, hey, we need to do something about this area. It needs economic redevelopment, but there was, I'm unaware of what their plans were at the time, but I know that it didn't include an outlet mall.
And then what does the, I'm sorry. What does the casino employ now? Do you know what their numbers are, like how many they employ?
No, I do not know.
'Cause I
But
was
as you
just-
can recall, that casino was built in the
90s.
early 90s when it was a riverboat casino.
Yeah.
When you actually literally had to be on the water, and the boat had to go out in the river, and then, literally, and then come back, and then they kind of relaxed those requirements, and then it didn't actually have to leave the dock, and now we have land-based casinos. Like, the markets in casinos has changed dramatically. And as I've saw, the values of the taxing values of that casino has changed over time, both because of the facilities and how it was used, and I would imagine too, the nature of how the gaming laws have changed and the competitions that casinos face in Illinois because of the evolving expansion of gaming.
My thought is just, really quick, is this, if they employ, it might be, obviously probably more, but if they employ 250, and let's say this one, due to the restaurants and the hotels and that venue, if they employ 3 times that, could that be an impact on us? Like, you know, people will move, I worked for the valet company for the casino, so I didn't work for the casino, I worked for their, and they brought people in from out of state that wanted to work there.
I do know that the city of Aurora has published their estimates of, the number of jobs it will generate. I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but
I remember
that
them
information
talking
is
about
is
that,
available
yeah.
from the city.
I mean, in theory, if people moved into the area, or Batavia and the district, in theory, they would be purchasing homes, and they would, that's the ancillary effect outside of the TIF that is not subject to TIF. So if property values go up because it's a more desirable place to live, therefore, in theory, it would help bolster property taxes.
And keep in mind, we came from a riverboat casino that was designed for that purpose, and this is much different. This is a casino and a hotel and several restaurants, and so this is much more than, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples between both of these casinos.
According to their website, it's 700 jobs, which would double their current employment roster.
They're adding 700, or it'd be total, I'm sorry.
Total.
So they're currently estimated, they are approximately at 350 employees. Their site is stating that it would increase to 700. They don't give a specific number on what amount of construction positions will be created for the project itself. They just said hundreds, so they don't give a specific number.
So Tony, back to, I just want to understand a little bit more, like, back to the negotiating point of better TIF terms, because I heard that a few times. What, in your opinion, is our ability to impact, like, the TIF terms as a board?
As a board? Functionally, I think it all comes down to leverage. Because ultimately, as I said earlier, the municipalities, when it comes to TIFs, they hold all the cards. And so whether or not you go along with it or not, they can make this happen with you or without you. Here they're offering us 10%. I do believe the city of Aurora is trying to genuinely be our partner here, understanding that, our interests can sometimes compete, but in some cases they're aligned, and that recognizing to some degree the nature of how schools are funded and other public bodies. It's not just about the school district, but the reality is that the school districts, not just Batavia, but all school districts, are the vast majority of the cost in terms of taxes, and the other public bodies are fractional. And the only other large public body after us would be the city of Aurora itself, and it already has its own vested interests. And after the city of Aurora, it falls off sharply in terms of those percentages. So generally speaking, the other public bodies don't much care.
Okay.
It doesn't affect them as much.
And say we send someone to this board, this review meeting, and we vote no. Is there can we be, for lack of a better word, punished or penalized, and like they'll take that, the 10% away from us?
Yes.
They haven't said that they would do that, but if I were in their shoes, that's probably what I would do.
Tony, I have a question. So when these TIFs are being discussed and talked about, was our district, do school districts, are they in the group that's negotiating these?
Well, typically no, so again, Aurora's approaching us, attempting to be a partner. Typically municipalities would just do it.
Right, that's what I'm saying, like, so it
They
wasn't
don't
like.
approach us with an
We were
NGA.
at this meeting where we
Yeah.
started to talk about it, and we said, well, we didn't have a vote to say, well, we should, if you have 50.
Historically, when we're working with the city of Batavia on TIFs, we don't talk about IGAs, they just do it. They just do it. And I've gone to joint review board meetings historically with the city of Batavia, and I voted no on the board's behalf
And we have.
for that reason.
We have voted no.
Yes.
And usually it's not this amount of money involved.
No.
That's,
Tony, who are we voting towards, I guess I should say? Are we voting on a proposition from Aurora or on a proposition from Penn? From the casino?
Well, I think it's really both. This very much brings a bigger economic engine to that area.
Well, I'm wondering who came up with this 10%?
The 10%, again, was Aurora attempting to be a
Aurora,
partner
right?
with us after the success of the outlet mall, knowing that, how all these pieces work together. And so when they created TIF 7 and 8, which didn't have a defined plan at the time, they pledged to us the 10%.
Okay, because I'm just trying to get to the, we say no because we think Penn can give us a higher percentage. Is that really what we would be saying if we say no? Would we actually be saying, no, thank you, Aurora, thank you for offering that 10%, but we thought you should have negotiated for more, and you didn't?
We're negotiating with the city of Aurora. We're not negotiating with Penn. But I would tell you that most municipalities don't negotiate anything with the public bodies. They just do it.
And us saying no to Aurora wouldn't get them to go to Penn and say, hey, we need more because.
It could.
It could.
But they don't need our authority to do.
They don't need us.
They don't need us, they can go on their own then.
I understand, but I mean, I want to learn from history here. We saw what happened with the past TIF, that the same exact company, situation's a little bit different, but the same exact company with the same exact idea, and.
I think based on what's on the front of the board right now, this is how it's gonna play out. If you vote no and decide not to move forward with the IGA, I think the city of Aurora is fine with that. They'll just not give us the $350,000 annually.
Okay.
That's it. If I'm being really direct about this conversation.
I
Sorry,
appreciate it.
I've
No,
had
that's-
conversations,
well,
I've
I'm
been
trying to-
involved.
That's what I'm trying to get to. It's
And
just-
that's what I'm getting down to. The IGA that's in place is with the city of Aurora, as the signatory lines are indicating. And if the board decides to vote no, that's by all means, board, that's your decision. But just so you know, this isn't going to halt their process. They're moving. They have a joint review board set and scheduled already. I have been in other districts where TIF discussions have occurred, and Tony's absolutely right. Cities plow right through what they want to do. They have the right to do it. And listen, I know there's a lot of feelings around this. We're not economic specialists, we're educators, right? So, but we're just in front of you, yeah, I mean, they have a structure of how they plan on making all those repayments, and that formula is built in, accounting to this particular IGA with anyone that they're, signing on with. So, to ask them at the 11th hour to restructure it completely on our behalf with a negotiation is probably not, if I'm being real, just, if you're asking me for my thoughts.
Based on your experience.
Well, in my opinion, based on where we're at, discussions I've had, I think really the decision, if I'm just boiling it down for you, is, you can vote no, send the message of what you want to do as a board, that's totally cool. But just know then, don't expect that the city will still honor the agreement that was inside of this IGA. They're not obligated to even offer it in the first place. They're also definitely now not gonna be obligated to offer it once we've actually voted and taken action against it, is my point. I'm only jumping in, RJ, because you're asking about what are the terms and ability, what are the abilities to negotiate terms with them? Based on conversations I've had, I know Tony's been knee-deep involved in making sure the terms of agreement, don't allow other things, so, yeah.
But, in one of your previous roles, did this scenario come up, and did it happen that way?
No, there was no offer of an IGA. The municipality just said, we're doing this, just as Tony pointed out. We tried to fight it, but the city moved forward with it anyway. Because we didn't agree with what they were considering to be a blighted area, given that it's a main corridor that felt pretty good to go.
I think fundamentally the problem is with the way that the tax, or the TIF statute is structured. That's the problem.
And I want a point of clarification, so I know we did get involved a little bit, and there was an ask that if this was voted yes and we approved it, or gave our consent or whatever, that we would agree to any other TIFs moving forward. And we actually did negotiate that, said no. If we voted yes, or we didn't vote against it, I should say, we're only looking at this one. If there's something that's proposed in the future, we reserve the right to vote no on that down the road, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
So this isn't like a blank check for future TIFs?
just for this TIF, yeah.
Just for this.
Because the way TIFs work, when you have adjacent TIFs, you can move money between them, you can transfer funds, you can, you can adjust boundaries, those sorts of things. We wanted to make clear that this agreement is simply for this Farnsworth-Bilter TIF, for this casino. There's probably gonna be other developments in this area because makes other properties more attractive. There are probably likely to be more TIFs. But we're just making clear that this arrangement for this particular TIF is the only arrangement that we're looking to agree to and nothing beyond it.
In the original language kind of implied,
Yeah.
if not stated, that we were giving consent to future TIF adjustments or without that. So we already, from whatever strength we had, utilized that as a means of protecting our future interests.
Yes.
And then just to clarify, because it addresses a bit RJ's comment, from what your understanding of how the deal between the city and Penn is structured is to a certain extent contingent upon this 10% and whatever other IGAs are out there. And that's why you said earlier, if there was an ability to provide a higher percentage to the district, that would have to come out of some other coffer because that's not in alignment with their pro forma for what they're doing with Penn.
Yes.
So the city would have to find a new revenue source to cover it. as
Or
opposed
Penn
to-
would have to take less
Or
money.
Penn, which is, a bet that it'd be difficult for others to make, I presume. Okay. So,
I'm curious is why they came to us and they didn't go to East Aurora. Because right there in Aurora, they came to us as a school district. I'm just like,
Well, there's a very clear reason for that, yeah. They came to us because this development is within the boundaries of our school district. So that's, districts, I think, we're Batavia schools, we touch parts of Geneva, we touch parts of North Aurora, we touch parts of Aurora, we even touch parts of Elburn, although nobody lives there. But so our district, this development is in our school district, that's why they came to us. They have to come to us because that's what the TIF law requires. This has nothing to do with East Aurora schools. The old casino is in the boundaries of East Aurora schools. The new casino is gonna be in our boundaries. Right next to the outlet mall, which is in our boundaries.
so south of Bilter, that's us?
Yep, that's us. We go past I-88 down there in that corner.
I know we were on the north side of Bilter, I didn't know the south side. And I know it's also, two.
And there's a long history as to why those boundaries are what they are, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, Aurora is actually our second largest area of drawing students and families.
10% of our student body comes from Aurora.
any other questions? I'm gonna pause a long time here just to give you guys a moment to think about it. All right, here, yeah. So hearing none, I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Aurora concerning TIF districts in the vicinity of Farnsworth Avenue and Bilter Road.
So moved.
Motion by Locke.
Second.
Second by Aaron. And this is a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. All right, next is staff board and comments. Tom, is there anything you and the administration would like to comment on this evening?
Yeah, I'm gonna modify my version since Todd did his usual thing and then took most of it, and then RJ jumped in on that too, so appreciate that. But I will say this, past week had a great opportunity to see our fine arts programs perform. And during the performance, one, our students did a spectacular job, and I really appreciate all the staff that support our kids to getting to that level of ability. I also thank you to the staff at the BFAC for running those evenings through all those nights. I really appreciate what Mr. Barsh said when giving appreciation to the audience, that he also noted, and I couldn't agree with this more, appreciation to all of our music teachers in the district who really have built that foundation for our kids to be able to, by this point now, at their time in their career in this district, perform that they were at the level that they were able to execute. And I thought that was a great tribute to all of our music teachers in this district, having built that passion for music and excitement. For myself, I was able to really enjoy the event, close my eyes and just listen to the kids performing each night, and it was beautiful. They did an amazing job. And I think it's a great reminder of what we're here for. We've talked a lot about tonight about buildings, brick and mortar, which are so critical and important. Tony and I have had great discussions around this, but I also, you all know, board, how I feel. This is a people business too. And I just want to say thanks and appreciation to all of our teachers, our support staff, our administrators, for making such moments and opportunities be able to happen. You've heard so many great things being presented tonight about what our staff are doing. I think that's so critical, and that we just keep in mind. I know it may really feel like a lot of doom and gloom. I just want everybody to remember, we have great people doing great work with great students. And I think that we should not lose sight of that. And on that note, I'll end, I won't belabor this, but, I was talking with Zara and Derek and as our student ambassadors, and it just reminds me of the hope of this generation and what our future brings. I just had this amazing conversation with them when we were preparing them about what our board agenda included. That's one of the, I don't know, board, if I've made you aware of this. I know Craig and Aaron know, but one of the things I've been doing is meeting with our board ambassadors before each board meeting now and walking them through the agenda. They look at it when we release it, and then we have dialogue. We do Q&A. These are our future leaders, and I have no doubt that those two are going to do amazing things in this world. And tonight was such a great reminder. We're talking, they're going to be releasing a really cool project that they're working on right now. And I was given permission, I can only tell you that it is going to be called Bond to Beyond. And it is absolutely what you've heard me talk about in terms of just how much more emotionally connected, their SEL intelligence is just so much higher than what it was with me and my friends. And I don't know how you all feel as adults now, but I don't recall ever thinking the way these two young ladies are thinking and wanting to take action. And I'm so excited to see what they end up doing with it. And we also, as part of this whole people thing that I am always about, we did honor our principals last week and celebrated and appreciated them and their leadership. Being a principal is a very, very difficult job. Maybe right after my job, I don't know. But that was very self-serving. That was a joke. That was just a joke. No, but honestly, the principalship is so tough, and we just wanted to say thanks to them. But again, like I said, so much stuff going on, and I know there's a lot of work we have to do, but if you think about it that way, there's so much light at the end of that tunnel. So just thank you, and thanks to my team, and thanks to all of you. That's all I got.
Okay, board comments? RJ, do you want to start or you want to kick it down?
I can start. So the season just ended for Batavia Youth Cheer. This was the first year that Batavia Youth Athletics had a cheer group from first to sixth grade, no tryouts, no cuts or anything like that. My third grader participated in it and found a new love. I never envisioned myself as a cheer dad.
Congrats.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's looking like I'm gonna be an orchestra dad and a cheer dad, which are, yeah, exciting. But it was really great. So props to the Batavia Youth Association. It was so amazing to go out and see on our field every Saturday morning. There was at least 6 different teams of cheerleaders out there, because there's no cuts, there's all the different grades, and they were out there cheering on whatever grade level flag football teams were out there. And then to finish it off, man, time's flying, I can't remember if it was last Thursday or the week before, but we did it under the lights, where we actually played all the games on the football field, which was amazing. That was the first time I was ever on that football field. That turf is amazing, but it was really neat. You know, the cheerleaders held the banner and the football teams ran through it, all that jazz, and it was really neat. And then at the end of it, the football players gave all the cheerleaders roses, which was very nice. The football teams were good the whole season about actually sitting down and watching the halftime show, which I also really appreciated that the coaches were having them do that to show, you know, that they're part of it and that they're thankful for the cheerleaders being there to support them. So, yeah, just really grateful for that opportunity, and happy principal appreciation to all the principals out there. I agree, it's a very tough job. That's it. Thank you.
I will keep it brief here, but a few points. Once again, congratulations to Miss Tiritan on her award. That's awesome. It really reflects well on our school district. Congratulations to her again. And I think I heard it mentioned in 4 different spaces, if you will. So that just shows you what a great achievement that was. I did want to say, I really love the BESPA presentations every board meeting. I find those, you know, just a great way to represent some of our employees and our support staff that's really making a big impact on our school district. And I'm all for keep doing that. I'd love to hear about all those things, and I love to hear about the personal side of the staff there. So, and then just a plug for Mean Girls, the musical. I think it's coming up November 9th through 12th. And I was a big fan of the movie, so I'm really looking forward to the musical.
Oh, my gosh.
That's it.
Just congratulations to the Batavia Art, and then Mrs. Tiritan, and this have a safe Halloween.
Okay.
All right, I want to thank everybody who is in attendance this evening. Everyone who reached out to the board. Your voices are important. I think we had some pretty lively discussions. They were driven by a lot of your comments and input. So thank you for that. It's really vital to the work we do. We need to hear every voice out there. Again, I want to echo all the celebrations we had. I mean, with the art department, I'll say, I always come in early and look at the artwork. I walk in here right behind me. This is Kayla Bash, 7th grade. She's my neighbor. I took a picture of that and sent that to her mother and father, and they were thrilled, and she was super excited about that. So, you know, I think one of the things that strikes me, so last week I think I was out almost every week with football and the marching band. And one thing that really strikes me about Batavia, you know, when I was in school, when you were an underclassman or in junior high, you kind of felt unseen. You know, it wasn't until you became a junior or senior that you got a chance to shine. And what really, I wish Mr. Owen was here, because I have a 5th grader who's playing clarinet, and I have 2 older kids, and they tried music, and they were out of it within a year, but Lily is taking to it. And so they had their performance, and it got rained out, and then they rescheduled, and we went, and they did the performance, and it was amazing, and she was looking for the clarinets, and she's on every note. But then what he does is he says, hey, all the future young kids who are just starting, can you come down here? And all those kids come down. And then the percussion did a performance. And then they have a poster of all the seniors available, and they have Sharpies that say, okay, kids, you can go get an autograph with these kids. And my daughter went out and saw the one kid she recognized, and she got his autograph. And so what I think was great about Batavia is that we're instilling these kids that, yes, your achievement is to be recognized and we come here and we celebrate, but really what you're doing is you're inspiring those younger kids because they look up to you, and you're showing them what's possible. Because when you're in 5th grade and you can't make a basket in the big hoop, or you can't get a note out of your clarinet without a few squeaks, and you see those other kids and you know, hey, they were just like me, and you can do this too. I mean, that's really amazing. And so I just want to thank our school district for creating that culture, because that's really, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. And then the other thing I just want to say is, yes, thank you to our principals. I had an opportunity to speak to the principals at the high school, middle school, grade school. That is a tough job. I mean, that, you know, every day they're just putting out fires, basically, whether it be their staff, the teachers, the parents. It's a tough gig. So if you have a chance to see one of them and say thank you for what you're doing, I know they appreciate that. And then I guess my son's a football player, so I'll say, hey, Friday we got a football game. And it's a tough game for our first round, so if you can get out there. When you go to a game, you're not only supporting the football team, you're supporting the cheerleaders, you're supporting the POMs, the music, all those kids. I've come to realize, and I'm going way too long because it's 10 o'clock, but I'll say, sometimes you go to a game, and after halftime, some people leave, people are like, what are they doing? I'm like, those are those parents for the band, you know? I mean, so when you go to a game, you're not just supporting the athletes, you're supporting everybody. So go Bulldogs, and again, thank you for everybody who came tonight.
I don't even know where to start, so I'll just say it was nice to see you, Carl and Yvonne, tonight, so take care. That's it.
I will just kind of summarize a couple of things. One, I appreciate, again, like everybody said, everybody coming tonight. I mean, I think tonight was a very good example of kind of the emails and the discussion. I think in my tenure on the board, I have not yet seen a approval or an action that was not unanimous. And I applaud everybody for sticking to what they think is right and what they want to move forward with. And while that might not be what other people wanted, it shows that we have an opportunity to engage in dialogue, and I appreciate that everybody did that tonight. On the one thing I do want to mention that I had heard, because while I am not having a kid in marching band anymore, I cannot quit, and that's a personal problem. But I was talking to some other parents and staff, and I will give accolades to Tom, because they noted that you were there at every performance, and it was felt and it was seen, and they felt that, you know, they appreciated you coming to kind of really understand what it was about and to see that. So I appreciate you as our employee of the board doing that effort. So thank you. And then last, for everybody that kind of came to the community night, the one interesting thing about the community night this year was it was right before the big band competition down at ISU. So they went and did the performance that night, and then 3 or 4 days later, effectively, they were downstate in Illinois performing for that. And that's effectively the playoffs, their big Super Bowl for the state of Illinois. And so I would be remiss not to state, that they are continuing a tradition of excellence. They are utilizing the capabilities that the district and the board and others and the staff, importantly as well, have given to those kids, and they are running with it in style and in effort and in rewards. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to the staff and those that volunteer and those that help. It is cast, really, in my opinion, if not thousands, that's an exaggeration, but it's definitely hundreds that help pull that off. And this year was a unique year. It was the biggest set of props that the crew's ever handled. It was a significant number of kids, and they made big headways. And then lastly, to pair it off of yours, the other thing that I noticed about Batavia is we make a lot of effort to engage the community in our efforts. So like the community night and the band events and the music events and everything else, of giving the opportunity for the outside, those that don't have kids, to participate. If you were there at the community night, there were far more people there than once. And one interesting note, while there was a kid, you talked about your kids getting the signature, that Chris Owen was telling me that there's I'm going to just say at least a grandmother in a wheelchair being pushed around by her daughter/granddaughter with the seniors, And he said she's been coming here as long as he has been running the community nights to get signatures from every single senior on that card. So it's wide ranging, not just your 7 or 8 year olds, it's your 80 or 90 year olds that are enjoying the event. So thank you. And with that, I will, this one's a little different today, huh? So, so we are being moving and adjourning to a closed session. I will entertain a motion to move to a closed session allowed under the Open Meetings Act for the purposes of exception 5 ILCS 2 parentheses C parentheses 1, in case you're noticing. I don't have to read an hour and a half of a statement anymore, so thank you to who figured that out. I will entertain that motion. Second. By Raquel, second by RJ. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?